Yep.
Try again?
Yeah.
Ask him again?
Councilman Fahet, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
I saw actually on the phone.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. No. No, like us.
You want to repeat him?
Check. Oh, because I said the clerk, well, tell her. I said I will. You could win. And that's perfect for you.
Check.
Okay.
You're ready to go. You're on YouTube.
First one ever.
You're recording there. Everything.
Okay. Did you see anybody else? Because I know we have
Not your-
Administrator, which is that.
Happy to. You
Where's
bet.
the other one?
yeah, we're missing two.
Yep, once they join, we'll be ready to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The wedding, all these events that we had were postponed last year because of the pandemic.
Yes.
So now it's all of a sudden, all these things that were rescheduled for the summer. And now we're back at a surge. In another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Crazy.
This is. Oh boy.
She's going to be on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're not waiting on that.
No.
That one. Okay. The microphone's on.
Yes, ma'am.
Erica and Heidi, are you on?
I'm here.
Oh,
Heidi's logging in right now, and she said to start without her, that she'll be logging in soon.
she's okay with us starting without her?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mayor Mitchell,
Here.
Vice Mayor Best,
Present.
Councilwoman Bravo, Councilman Fahet,
Here.
Councilman Vasquez.
Here.
There is a quorum present.
All right. Thank you all for being here. This is the budget workshop for the city of Miami Springs, the first of at least 2 budget workshops. And we'll start with the invocation. We had Councilman Walter Fahet was going to do the invocation. He's had a death in the family, unfortunately. And our Vice Mayor Best will be doing the invocation for us.
Heavenly Father, look down upon this body tonight as we discuss the fiscal budget for 2021-22. Give us the wisdom to understand the needs of the people. Give us the wisdom to understand how a city works. Give us the wisdom to come out of this as we're supposed to, 0-0. And I might also add, Councilman Fahet, we are sorry he's not with us tonight. Unfortunately, the death of his father-in-law precluded him from being here. May his soul rest in peace. Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance. Let's all join in. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And record, Councilman Fahed is not with us physically, but he is attending the meeting virtually.
Correct.
Good to see you, Walt. Sorry.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yes, okay, so let's start with agenda item 3, workshop on proposed fiscal year. Again, this is a workshop where we have the opportunity to listen to what the city has prepared for us based on, a lot of it was on our workshop after the elections and what has been going on past years. And then we have an opportunity to ask questions of all the department heads that are going to be discussed, of the departments that will be discussed today.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Welcome to the first workshop for fiscal year 21-22. In preparation for this budget workshop, I provided you a budget book. It's also online. This whole package is also online for the residents to access. This budget is based on the millage rate of 7.3300, which is our current millage rate. As I mentioned before, at that rate, it provides a small surplus of $18,669. You remember at the millage cap, you set the cap at 7.55. The budget you have before you is based on 7.33. For the new members of council, just wanted to reiterate these first two workshops is go through each department individually. I'll be telling you more or less what the budget looks like, increase or decrease from the prior year, and why there's that increase or decrease. And then after we go through all the workshops, the actual finalizing of the budget happens during the 2 public hearings in September. So changes can be made on the budget anytime from now until I think the second meeting is September 27th, Eric, I believe. That's the
Sorry?
second public hearing.
Yes.
So as we go through, we'll take notes of any suggestions you have, recommendations on things that should be added or taken off. And what I'll do is after we do these departments tonight, for the second workshop, before we start, I'll tell you, okay, during the first workshop, council added these or took off these, and this is where we stand now as far as the millage rate and the surplus or deficit for the year. So I just wanted to put that out there. I also provided for the new members a one-page summary to help you guide you through the budget process. So if there are no questions, we can start off on section 2 with the city council budget.
Through the chair, William, I have one, sir.
Okay?
With the I recognize the budget is based on the 7.33,
Right.
but with the 7.55, what would the overall number be of? I know you provided that to us at the last meeting, but just so everybody knows going forward here.
About 300, at 7.55, about 300,000
Surplus.
surplus.
Thank you, sir.
All right, if you turn to page 2-3 in section 2, the proposed budget for the city council is about the same as last year's, a difference of $420 lower, which is minimal impact. You'll see the promotions line item is the highest item you have in your budget. That's $82,000, and that's made up. I have a listing of items that make that amount up. Which includes the Stafford Golf Tournament, the River Cities Festival, car shows, things of that nature. $35,000 that's allocated to the Curtis Mansion to assist with their annual operating costs, and $6,000 allocated to the Historic Museum for storage costs. One thing I have, I think Julie Arias is here from the mansion. As far as the River City, she has a request that's on pages 2. It's on page 2-11 of your packet. We normally budget $14,000 annually for the River Cities Festival. And you'll see in her letter, page 2-11, that she's wants to, I don't know if you want to speak to it now, or she wanted to see if council was agreeable in the money that wasn't used, doubling it up and giving them 28,000 for next year's River Cities instead of 14,000.
Through the chair, what became of those funds, William?
You see?
They were not encumbered.
This
Back
year,
into the
they're sitting in your
general
council budget, and that at the end goes into
roll over if we knew. Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So thank you, Mayor, Council. Thank you so much for hearing us out. So my request is basically that, given that we've been closed for 2 years, the festival was now was entrusted to me, and we're basically starting from scratch from absolutely nothing, because at the moment the festival doesn't have any funds, and the expense of the festival itself falls on the shoulders of the executive director, which at this point is now me. So with that said, excuse me, may I take this off?
Julie.
Well, let's ask. It's okay to
Is it okay?
take that off
Yes.
to speak, William, in public buildings?
Is it okay to remove?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If you're sitting, you're okay. If you're standing, it'd be different.
So basically the request was with the $28,000, what that would go to is to basically cover the cost of the off-duty police officers and of public works. So the money would come right back to the city. It would just be really to cover those expenses. So in essence, it would help the festival in its first year back up, just to get some strength so that moving forward, we can continue doing what we have. And given that this is a festival that helps a lot of the community organizations here in the city and is a tradition, it would be something that we'd like to continue to be able to do. So the request is that the money, the $14,000 from last year that was never used, and the $14,000 of this year, be put together to cover those two expenses in particular, the off-duty police officers and the public works, which are from the city.
Through the chair, Julie, but there was no festival, and the 14,000 wasn't utilized.
Correct.
So now we have one festival coming forward, which is within our budget here, and you want to double up on that.
Correct. So
but we're not paying for double the police protection.
No. So actually, the cost of public works and the police is usually roughly about $30,000 to $35,000. So that's essentially where that money would go.
No, thanks for pointing that out, because I think that's important.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes.
I'm not clear.
Okay, go ahead and ask questions.
Yes, I understand that about the 35,000, the 14,000. By the way, I love the festival, so I just want to be clear on how that first 14,000 is going to be used.
Sure. So the idea is that the full 28,000. So 14,000 from 2021.
Correct.
The festival never happened, so that money was never utilized.
Correct.
So now 2022, we would be receiving another $14,000, right? So what I'm saying is just to use that double amount, so the one from 2021 and 2022, to cover the cost of off-duty police officers and public works. That's basically, what I'm requesting. Or the other option is, which is essentially, how we run it in other forms, is once I get the invoice, I give it to the city, and the city sees exactly where that money is going. So it would be strictly for the use of those two different services. So in the past, I believe the money was then given and the festival itself could allocate it as it needed. In this case, I'm actually requesting that the money be used specifically for the sole purpose of the police officers and the public works, that the city, uses for the festival.
Okay. So through the chair, to be clear, it costs more than $14,000 for police for one festival.
Correct.
Okay. So the income from the festival would take care of the rest of the costing of police for one festival. You're saying double it up, take care of the whole thing, and look for a better festival. That's what you're saying.
Correct. Exactly. Especially this year, given that it's the first year back after 2 years of being closed, we're going to go post-pandemic. And, we have a lot of new logistics that are going to go into it. The circle is not the same. Everything is brand new. So there are going to be other costs that are going to be new to us that we're still even understanding what those are going to be exactly. And, so that would be a huge, huge help to the festival if that would be covered.
Thank you.
Yes,
To
absolutely.
the chair. I like what Julie proposed and maybe invoicing us back so that way we don't put the money up front. Maybe there's an overage. So I think we can, pay an exact invoice if
Abs-
that's something that we're willing to do. Okay.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Councilman.
So, Julie, so then if the police cost $30,000, so in the past, the $14,000 that the city gave, that was 16, so another $16,000 had to be raised in order to just cover the police and public works and previous River Cities Festival?
Correct.
Let me give you a breakdown of the last festival that was held in 2019 was the last festival. The police and public works was about $25,000. The total expenses for that festival was $78,000, and total revenues, including the $14,000 that we give, was $79,500. So they basically, according to what was provided then, they made maybe $1,200 profit according to their financials. So actual police and public works was about $25,000 in 2019. So it'll probably be a little bit higher this year. But in historically, we've provided 14,000, and then the other, in this case, all the 65,000 came from other sources.
Any other questions? I have a few, Julie. I'm not sure tell me what the benefit is to the city by us. Okay, because you're proposing two things, and I know Councilwoman Bravo said the invoices, which is actually not giving you the money, it's that you invoices, which is what we have in place right now, right? That you invoice us.
So
as
my
you
understanding,
expenses, and then we provide that to you up to 14,000. So I'm not sure the extra 14,000 that's profit for the River Cities because
and please correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that in the past, the $14,000 was given to the festival, and the festival dispersed of that money however they felt necessary. That's my understanding. Is
I
that
think that was changed last year. Correct.
Well, they haven't had a festival in 2019.
Right, but I think
Well, what happened last year was totally different. We had advanced them some of the money.
Right.
It wasn't used, and they had to return unused money.
But my understanding is after that incident last year where we had the issues of we had advanced money and obviously nobody could anticipate that, shortly thereafter in February or, March, everything would be shut down. But we had a discussion here at the council that going forward, that
It will be
it
on a
would be set up
reimbursement
that
basis.
instead of us
Correct.
dispersing the 14,000, that you would, as you have an invoice or a payment due. Because obviously the money shouldn't be coming out of your pocket for everything if you don't have that available, but just a payment due that you supply the city the bill, and then we pay for the bill. Is that correct? Isn't that what we discussed
Correct.
after? So that
Mayor, I'm sorry. We had also said that we would give some, I believe it was $5,000 in seed money to start. And then the invoice, obviously they would have to give us paid invoices back for the first 5,000. And then they would invoice us for us to release more money up to the 14,000. But we did discuss a 5,000 upfront seed money payment to the River Cities.
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, you're right. And I think the reason for that logic or discussion after the meeting was to avoid what happened last year with the pandemic, that we gave the money and then it wasn't held. And then when we asked for the money back, there was a lot of discrepancies, I guess, as to.
He had to write a big check.
Right, right. So right now, with the situation that we're in right now, which, it seemed like we were easing up and now we're going into another surge, there's certainly a lot of uncertainty. Are you planning to hold the festival in April again?
in March,
In
first
March.
weekend in March? Yes.
Okay, I would say at this point, there's certainly a lot of uncertainty as to how that goes. So I don't see any reason that we should change that part of it, that we give the seed money and then as for the $5,000 to get started, and then anything thereafter you show the city the bill or the invoice, and we pay for it or we reimburse you. So are we all in agreement?
Through the
that?
through the chair, I think I'm understanding what you're saying. Are you saying that let's go ahead and post the money, but not give it out, but just what we did before relative to seed money, and then if it goes over and above, we will help?
Well, that's the first part
Mhm.
is that. But now we're talking, if we're all in agreement with that, then let's talk about the extra 14,000.
Right.
Because right now we're just talking about the
Mhm.
first 14,000
Right.
and now the second request for the money that was not used last year.
Right.
And I guess I'd like a little more information as to how that benefits the city. What, or the overall festival,
Sure.
the
So
residents,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So aside from it being a tradition, right? We all know that the festival is a tradition. The truth of the matter is that the financial burden of the festival falls on the person putting the event together. In this case, that person is me. However, with that said, this is a festival that still works as a fundraiser to many of the organizations here in the community. And I could start naming a few: Lions Club, Rotary, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is used by all of those different organizations for them to use as fundraisers. And I'm okay with continuing doing that. That's part of the reason why it's a community event, right? It's a community project. So every year, obviously, with all of the different changes, there's bigger expenses and so on and so forth. Now, I know that the city has always given the festival a certain amount of money. My suggestion for that is I'm okay with not even receiving the seed money. I'm okay with that money going directly to the police officers and to the public works. That would just be a huge help when it comes to the financial burden of the festival itself. And given that we're at a zero right now, we're literally starting from scratch. This is basically a brand new festival that's starting all over again, that has a long history. That would just simply be a huge, huge help making this festival happen.
Through the chair, are you suggesting that if all the money that you are requesting right now is not used, it would be reimbursed to the city?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with that then.
Well, I think what she's saying is instead of, because what's happened in the past with police, for example,
Yeah.
they pay the police directly on off-duty time.
Mhm.
So, and then Public Works prepares an invoice at the end of the festival. We send it to them and they pay that.
Have
So
we?
in this case, I guess what she's suggesting is that we pick up the tab for the police services and the Public Works and not bill them.
Okay.
It could be, I'm not saying it could be 30,000, but historically, the last one, like I said, was about 25,000.
I don't know, through the chair, I don't know that we'd ever asked this before in these budgets over the years, but have we, or if we're locked by collective bargaining on what the cops make when they're off duty and they're doing this?
That's
Have
the
we?
contract.
Okay, so there's no like, hey, can you take a little? No, you can't do that.
Well, I think Tom has negotiated with them in the past.
Okay.
Tom Curtis. Oh, I'm sorry. I believe Tom Curtis has negotiated with them in the past, so I can do the same. I can go directly to the chief.
Should we request that he does that to reduce the costs?
Of course. Any way we can stretch the
Yeah.
the limited funds. I know the residents get a lot of enjoyment out of,
Oh, yeah.
having our river cities and obviously we want it to be a good event.
I mean, if
but,
they could stand on the cost, a couple $2 an hour or something. I mean, they're out there having fun too, and
Oh,
and
I
chances are there's not going to be an event. God forbid that I just said that, but hopefully there isn't. There generally isn't at the River Cities Festival. It's usually a pretty good time for 3 days. So if we can get them to budge on that a little bit and maybe reduce it somewhere there, we're up here again for 4 meetings to try and get this thing to where it's going to make sense. The final budget's going to make sense to the taxpayers, and we got to look at everything.
So if I understand this correctly right now, what we're talking about, William, and from what you just mentioned, then should we allocate the extra 14,000 from last year to the river cities, and it would be 28,000. There wouldn't be seed money for the river cities. We would just absorb that money
Correct.
for the police and the
Correct.
public works.
Correct.
And it would be internally that we provide those services.
Correct.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman.
William, the money from last year that wasn't used, just like, for other events like the fireworks that weren't, that didn't happen the year prior, that just goes into the general fund. It's not like it goes into reserves, correct?
That at the end of the year, at the end of this fiscal year, whatever, if it wasn't used, it's a surplus at the end of the year, and that goes into reserves.
I'm sorry, it goes into reserves?
Goes into reserves, yes.
Okay, so then the budget that's being proposed here does not include that money as that money is put into reserves.
Right. So,
Right.
and if we were to allocate another, let's say the total cost is 25,000 for police and public works, the additional 11 would come from reserves.
Gotcha. I only asked that, and I'm sorry, but the only reason I asked that is that I think all of us on the council have gone through this budget with a fine tooth comb, and we're all kind of racking our brains about where we can make this be balanced and do the things that really have to be done. And I love the River Cities Festival as much as anybody. I've been to every single one since I was a kid. But I also think that we have the wind to our backs. Like I think of that car show that happened over 4th of July weekend. I think everybody was so ready to come out. I had never seen a car show that full of people, just because people were ready to get back. And while I want to help, and I think we need to consider how we could help, and I like some of the ideas, how we're thinking creatively. We're just getting started in this process, and I'm taking notes about where we could find every nickel and dime to do everything that has to be done. I just worry about just saying, okay, we're just going to take out of reserves and we're just going to double up what we put to the festival so that it's, I worry. I'm not saying I don't want to help or give more. I'm just a little hesitant just because we're starting this process off, and I'm worried about, like, nobody wants a millage rate to go up. We could have a council chamber full of people to tell us that they don't want the millage rate to go. I don't want the millage rate to go up. There are really important things and a bunch of budgets and cost of living increases and the need for another police officer and the repairs that have to happen in the golf course. There's so many things. I think it's something it's another thing that we have to consider. So just putting that out there.
And I agree with you, Councilman Fahet. And I think right now we're just finding information about it, and it'll be something that we'll consider as a request. And later on, we'll decide whether. Right now, we've committed, and I mean that could all change, but we've committed to 10,000 annually. So this is a request to double it based on money that wasn't used last year. And I think this is just questions for that consideration. The request. I would suggest that. Like you, that we continue any extra allocations, funding. What we're doing is that we consider it, we put it on list, and then visit it and decide what we can fund and not.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Anyone else have any questions?
I agree with that.
Darius, right now regarding the River Cities?
No, I think she's made a request.
One
Yes,
question.
sure.
Julie, because I'm just learning about how this works. So the last River Cities Festival that was it held in 2019?
Mm-hmm.
2019, yes.
Is the intention of the festival to break even, or is it profitable? I don't know if I missed that earlier.
So
19, right?
19.
I'm sorry, 2019. Yes, 2019 was the last one. So I can't necessarily speak for the prior executive director and what their goals were. My goal is that this does become a festival that's self-sustaining, right? Essentially, that's what I like to do, and that's what I've always done. That's my business, events. So for me, I see the number of people that show up to that festival, and I see the type of vendors and the performers. I don't know why at this moment it's not doing better financially than it could be doing, because I think it definitely can be, but I think I'll know those answers once I've done it. This will be really my first time managing this specific event. And although I've been involved with the festival in the past, it's always just been a specific area that I've always handled. So I do, looking from my knowledge from other events that I've done in the past, and then just looking at this specific event and the kind of attendance that it has and the kind of, I guess you could say, activities, I do think this is an event that should be able to
Profit.
Mhm.
Because I was just thinking if there was any profit or sitting funds. I remember you said earlier that there was nothing going on there. There was no funds from or leftover.
Correct. So
revenues.
yeah.
I
So
don't even know where that
so
went.
basically, right now, when the festival was entrusted to me, there are no funds right now to support it. So there is no money, and there are certain vendors that paid for 2020 that I'm actually going to just simply give them a space because they paid for it, but that money is not
Okay.
there either.
Got
So
it.
I'm actually getting the festival in a small negative, but
Okay.
nothing that, you know.
All right.
Are you reaching out to other cities? I know Tom in the past has reached out to Virginia Garden, and Hialeah.
Correct. Yeah. So we're definitely reaching out to all of those different organizations, and I've already started the process of opening a 501c3 for the festival, so that I could also request for grants and things of that nature. That unfortunately for 2022, it's just not enough time. But hopefully for 2023, 24, we'll be able to get that as well. So there are other things that are being done. I've also already communicated with different specialists in this kind of field. I'm actually partnering with an individual who does the Carnival on the Mile. Does all these kind of events, that is very experienced in this. We'll make sure that with the new logistics, the new road, the new circle, everything is done in a safe and appropriate manner.
So you're planning to be a nonprofit again, like the festival used to be.
Correct.
When that's happening?
So the non-for-profit was already opened on Sundays, and the 1023 Easy was already filed. I'm just waiting for the approval of the 501c3 status.
Time before the next festival.
Yeah, so through the 1023 Easy, it usually takes about 2 to 3 months tops.
How many years has the festival profit?
What, 3 years? In Tom, 3 years ago. Because when Connie and Barbara Marr and
Right.
they all had it, it was not for profit. Yeah. One more thing, Mayor, if I might. I don't think you're too late, because you mentioned something very dear to my mind and my heart, I should say, and that's the grant money. I don't think you're too late to apply for a festival coming up in March, April, if you're already in with the 501 and stuff.
Correct. So that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that within the next month to 2 months we'll have it. The only thing with grants is usually they want a history. Like they want to know that you're sustaining. So even though the festival itself has been here since 1970 and I can show them that history, they want to know about your specific, like this specific organization, 501. So that's why it's still,
I think you can pull that off.
And through the chair. And there are also no guarantees how long these processes take.
Correct.
The incorporation, the tax code, and all these things. Could be 3 months. You hope.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
No.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Next request for additional funding, the museum. I know Lily and Jennifer are here. As I mentioned before, we usually budget about $6,000 a year for the storage costs for them. 212. They are making requests. An additional $500, $1,500. And Jennifer, I don't know if you or Lily want to address.
Yes. Hey, welcome.
You guys.
Lily.
We're good. We appreciate the
cross-connected
council's
with
time
something
and thank
else?
you for considering our request.
Oh, okay.
As
I'm
you know-
sorry. My apologies.
Jennifer, could you speak into the mic, please?
We should move, we
Or-
should change.
Or just move the mic if you want. I think you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Better.
Sorry. Thank you very much for considering our request. As you know, with the building and with COVID, was a very difficult year to do anything in terms of moving funding for the museum. We finished and completed the renovations for the building, and we are able to be in the building and request and move toward grants. We have exhibits that have begun to be put together. And I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time breathing.
You can take it off. You're sitting down.
Thanks. And So we have carefully gone through everything. We've been going through the process of requesting money from other areas or venues, various cities. We've just received a small request from another city and from other donors. But traditional events that we have been able to throw, we've not been able to do to gain the money necessary to run the facility and to have exhibits. So we put together very conservatively what we estimate these costs to be. And we appreciate every consideration of the council in order to sustain this project going forward. We anticipate having a soft opening, I believe it's in October, for those who participated in funding us. And all of you on the town council, I would hope you'd be able to join us. We'll get you the date. You'll see that the building is very well done. The exhibits, the way that it's being laid out is very well done, and we'll be telling the story of Miami Springs, the River Cities, and Curtis, which is our 501c3 charter, with excellence. But it will be very difficult to do it without the appropriate monies. And the building, we've been working very closely, to ensure that we are getting up to, all things in and up to speed, and we appreciate your consideration. I don't know what questions you might have of us, but I know that the money is tight all the way around. So every consideration that you would have for our group, we would appreciate.
To the chair, Lily, are there are still things that you have in storage, right?
Yes, there are. We were not able to get things into the museum due to the way the construction was done. With the original funding, the timelines and some of the things that had to go through, particularly around, we had some issues around some windows. We replaced all the windows in the building. Yes, there were some issues getting things out of storage into the facility. Yes.
And that's of course some of the funding you're requesting to keep that stuff in storage. Is there a plan? Is there a plan forward to get it eventually out of storage to eliminate this cost?
As much as possible, yes.
Meaning.
We are moving to getting everything in. We anticipate, reducing down to at least one storage unit. I think the building, as you know, is about 800 square feet.
Small.
And to run the exhibits with the property that we have been able to collect, it's a very small space and not a lot of storage. But we can continue to work to eliminate, storage over time. But I think we are going to, have a need for some sort of professional air-conditioned location for some pieces of the exhibits. Yes.
I've said this up here for years, and I'm going to say it again tonight. Again, I would love for you and the Curtis Mansion to cut a deal and do it all.
Well,
that to me,
we'd be happy to lead that organization and
well,
assist
you're
them
sitting right.
with history.
You're sitting right in front of the right person to talk to on that too.
So
So
I think they have a board. Bob.
They do.
They
do.
So
CMI.
we're always open and willing, to work with the mansion and and work on exhibits and have have a beautiful history of our town. I mean, the whole premise of our organization, we were founded to save that building, as you know. So, and I think there are a lot of events and there are a lot of things that are complicated that make it difficult for the vision of having it as one unit. I think it's something that maybe we all agree eventually we will find a way to work with those events, and the items that are, that we all have, that we treasure, that show our history.
To me, it just makes a whole lot of sense, and both organizations would be enhanced.
Of course, yes, absolutely, and
plus we'd eliminate costs.
Yes, of course, we cannot push another 501c3 off their charter, as you will. And we have our charter. We are the Historical Society. I mean, we've had that conversation, that we are responsible for the history of the town. We are, we've been doing, I think, a very good job pro bono of curating and moving this project forward to ensure that we tell a good story about us and inspire students and families and anyone to rise up to be whom they can be. I will say that I do think the Curtis Mansion has a very complicated deck of events as they move forward, that, with weddings and other things that maybe I've always heard over time they can't handle, the exhibits that maybe we would need the space to put things on. Maybe there'll be opportunities, and I think there always are opportunities for us to do cross exhibits and do things, culturally together around their event schedule. But it's hard to know when somebody's going to get married, and want to use the mansion. I think we're all hoping that there's more profit that goes into that building, right? But if there were opportunities to use the space on the second floor, if there were opportunities, to maybe change and move office spaces and things like that, we're open to those considerations and to moving our exhibits. We have laid out some very cool technical things in this little tiny building that I think you guys are going to like and will be a draw. And it's no saying that we can't do them over in the mansion, but we are down a pathway now in this 800 square foot converted garage on a park. And I think we've done what we can with that space, to make it attractive. So I think there will be opportunities. We look forward to it. If Curtis Mansion Society wants to work with us to do that, we're happy to do that.
That's progress, what you just said.
Yeah, we're always, I think we've been saying this for a long time, that we are willing and, happy to work together. It's just that the way the building is set up, and I think Juliana can answer to that, is that, it's not set up, to be able to throw a wedding, protect exhibits right now, right? So that's something in the future. It could be set up to do that. It's not impossible. But I wouldn't want to say off the cuff and put an organization in a situation to sort of have to say, no, we can't do it because we have this, and this coming up. There's an event schedule, and I'm sure there's a lot going on there, but we are happy to talk about that. I think you're looking at probably a year out before, if conversations were to actually take place, to allow that to happen and to put exhibits into that building where maybe they belong. We are happy to entertain that conversation and make that happen. There are a lot of people who put a lot of soul and effort and muscle into creating this building and, curating the facts about the town. And I think we have some history professors and teachers and people who've been keenly interested in the topic that know how difficult it is to find the talent to write about, research, and have the right data to run and operate a museum. It's a different endeavor than an event space. So that is something I can't control. What the town wants to do with what building. We are grateful for the building that we have, and we'd like to see it work. That's why we're asking for the cash.
Right.
And if there's a way to squeak it out, we appreciate it. We are, now that we have a building, just to be clear, we can actually ask for grants. That was one of the problems we had before. We did not have a building.
You didn't have a home.
No, we had no home, and it is a requirement for most endeavors that are requesting cash. So
Well, I think there is a commonality between both organizations, and I think for you guys to enter into some type of discussions going forward would be in the best interest of the city. That's all I'm saying up here.
yes, and we're happy to have those conversations. We are about history and running a museum. So, you can see the conflict, that's about events and running weddings and parties, and it's a little bit of a different thing. So could it be worked out? Potentially, yes, but we're always open to it. And always open to how it could all work together toward the common good, because the only reason this exists is for the, betterment of the city and, and for inspiring all of the generations of people that live here. So we're keenly aware of that. We hope we have your support for the funding that we're asking for. I think you're going to be very impressed with what we've done. And I look forward to showing it to you.
Through Chair. Yes, you prefaced my comments. So as a historian who's done a lot of archival work and done some archival restoration, and I'm always concerned about storage and materials that are stored. in 5 years, we're going to be celebrating the 100th anniversary of the city, and we certainly want to make sure that we have available all the materials that we can get. Um, Generally speaking, what do you have in storage right now? Is there any archival material in storage?
Yes,
About how many cubic feet would you say?
we have 3 storage units, or 2 storage units. We're down to 2. And we have, and they're approximately what, 10 by 20? 10 by 10?
Maybe.
I can get you the exact number, Victor. I can return it through William to get you the exact square footage. We do have a lot of documents. We have a lot of photographs. We have a lot of original content, papers. We have paintings, lots and lots of very cool things. If you were able to see the exhibit on the Parkway, that would not have been possible without the material from the museum.
And that material is now stored where?
It's over in the storage units by Virginia Gardens. I think it says store value or something on the building.
Okay.
Value store.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
at
Sorry.
the corner of 60 something and 36.
Yeah, so local.
Yep.
Local presence.
So for the council, this is very important, proper storage of archival material.
Right.
I can tell you from 3 decades of experience. I think that it gives me the impression that you guys have been the little engine that could, and and we need to make the little engine that could do more. But I'm particularly concerned in making sure that any archival material is preserved correctly, and as the museum really develops further, to make sure that those materials can then move to where you are. And again, you probably need a little more space, but anyway, that's anticipating. But
Yes.
That's the bottom line. There's not enough space.
Yeah.
They would not allow one of the bathrooms. We wanted to put one of the bathrooms in storage. And
Yeah.
that was not allowed by zoning, so we got caught in not having any storage.
yeah, and my experience with archives has been that depending on the size, the material that can be used for educators and researchers sometimes is not located on the premise because of a lack of space, but they have to be stored somewhere where they can be moved to the proper place for researchers and educators to use and so forth. So I see the future development of this.
Right.
And this is of the utmost importance to the city and its history.
Yes.
It needs to be protected, is my point.
We appreciate that.
May I add that everybody that's in the society and working, it's all volunteer work because we love our city. And we feel that if the children know our history, that this city will continue being the wonderful place it is to live. So we don't do this lightly.
Right.
I think
Thank-
you're
thank you.
extremely persistent and dedicated group, the
Yeah.
Historical Society of Miami
Yeah,
Springs,
they have been.
considering everything you've been through of volunteers.
Right.
Persistent, dedicated,
Right.
and
Well, this-
unstoppable.
This history becomes more important as you know, we're taking grand leaps into space. So our history in aviation and rocketry and engines and all these things become more and more relevant. And as our town grows, one would hope that we would be able to attract businesses that also are looking forward toward developing things for mankind, on this journey. I mean, we are an ideal location, for entrepreneurs and for technical startups. We have a lot of funding going on here in Miami-Dade County that really just lead this idea that we would be able to talk about what Glenn Curtis did and accomplished in this town and all of the really cool things that he did and those things that then sparked as a result of that. We have this enormous opportunity in front of us. If done well, we can really show who we are and attract another innovation. And I think that innovation is, definitely, we see Austin, Texas, we see, other cities where they are definitely growing and, educating and driving this initiative. And it is very important to, there are kids that are waking up in their beds, thinking about how to get to space and be like Bezos or Tesla. et cetera. And why not? Or Curtis. And well, Curtis didn't get to space, right? But he, you know, he got where man could at that point. So we have this great opportunity to tell that.
The Boeing company from going under.
Yeah.
Because that's when they built the World War I planes.
Well, he absolutely did. And he drove women's rights too. I mean, because, you know, women would not have been flying had there not been planes that they could buy at low cost. If you read any of the marquees that we were able to put up about history. So there's great innovation opportunities based on the work that we're doing and the stories that we're telling. And we're so grateful to have our building. We hope that you'll continue to fund us. I don't know if there are any other questions.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just one other question. What relationship do you have to History Miami and other organizations?
Well,
like
we're
that?
members of History Miami. I mean, we are, we're always looking at the different groups, you know, whether it's, you know, the museums with FIU, the museum, History Miami, working with different, I mean, we've had conversations long ago with, you know, members of Miami-Dade County. We have a former member from Miami-Dade School, you know, on our board and serving and, you know, helping us put this building together. So we're connected with the space. We'll be able to be more connected. I think, I mean, you look at, we've been sitting, trying to operate since I've been working on this. So like maybe 6 years, you know, with meeting in Lily's, you know, garage, so, or dining room table anyway. But we just,
Good meetings. I start fucking meetings.
yeah, but we've got a great opportunity here, guys. So.
You forgot
Through the chair?
You forgot Richard Branson. He was at the,
Yes, I know. I'm sorry.
and I was just thinking out loud here. Curtis Space Tours down the road.
Yes. Well, we've got so many really cool things that, you know.
You're not going to get that funded here, but
No, well, you know, no, we're not. But I think when people know that the city is behind us in our work, it makes it way more relevant to the parties that could donate to our work. You know, they understand that this endeavor is embraced, where many towns are not. They don't even know how they got started, you know, so we're just very, very appreciative. I think there was another question.
Mayor, I have a question.
Councilman, 1 second. Councilwoman Bravo's next.
Okay.
Thank you. Question. So basically, I see that we have a heavy implication with storage, right? We have 2 storage units. How much are those 2 storage units costing you right now? Is it what I see here, the $29.50 each unit?
$478 a month
$478 a month.
for the 2 units.
A piece or
We
together?
used to have 3 units. One was, we got rid of it. We were
Okay.
able to put some of the stuff in the museum building.
So right now,
The other 2 units, we're in the process of evaluating what can be moved. If we can downsize, that's our goal. But as
so right
I
now,
said before, we will probably always because the building is so
that
small.
was my concern. If it's going to be a continued expense that takes up the majority of any revenues that you guys bring in.
Yeah, and
So
we-
right now
we
between
thought we were
2,
gonna put it in that second bathroom, but we couldn't do it.
yeah, so
we
between,
got caught there.
yeah, I understand. So between the 2 units, you're at about 11,500 every year?
No, 6,000.
No.
half
No,
It's
It's an
478
estimated,
she said 478 a month
for both
for one.
units.
For 2.
Oh, for both.
Both.
very lean.
Oh,
Yes,
Of things that we know for sure we're gonna have to.
and you're about
incur.
5,000.
Right.
We really need, if you look at it, we're gonna spend more.
Yeah.
We are. This is very, very low in the actual expenses. But because a lot of our donors donate the stuff and don't bill us, we feel we can do it.
I guess my question is, are you going to continue to receive donations or items that
We're
will
gonna
lead?
continue
We will
the
always
fundraising,
continue to receive
donations.
items that are relevant to the history of this town and to, you know, and to the history of Glen Curtis. Yes, that is never going to go away.
Actually, it'd be a good thing. if
It
our
is part
storage
of running a museum. Is storage will be always very important to that. We accept donations from, as long as they're relevant to the mission of you know, what's being done. And we have a director, we have a governance around that. We don't just take everything. We take only the items that relate to our history specifically and or to an exhibit. Recently, we received a number of items that go into the Eastern exhibit, which you'll see when we get started. So there's always going to be storage in any museum. That will be a need.
Yes.
The difference is that with a building that is operational and up, you can apply for grants, you can attract people that want to donate money, you can attract different schools and places where people are going to want to come in and see it. It's difficult to operate, when you can't show what you can do.
Okay. You, Councilman Fahet?
Thank you. So I just wanted to try to summarize my understanding of this. Once again, thank you, Jennifer and Glenn, for everything that you guys done. I'm a Glenn Curtis geek, so I appreciate, and I've been to his museum in Hammondsport, New York as well. So I just want to be clear. In the past, the city has paid $6,000, which is roughly what it costs for you to have 2 storage units. And I see on your proposed budget for next year that and maybe it's not certain yet, but you're going to try to reduce to 1. So you have in your projected budget just $2,950, which is basically, it seems like 1 storage unit. But then your request, just to be clear, so that everybody on the council knows, you're making a request that the city for this coming year help you by meeting 50% of your projected expenditures on this budget, which would come out to $12,498. So just if that's correct, just let me know. And then if you were to reduce to 1 unit and we were to continue to fund you at 6,000, then the extra 3,000 could go to helping out if we cannot do 50% of your budget, which would be basically 12,500. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. And I do want to correct that the city in the past, Walter, Councilman Fayette, did provide, pay the rent for the museum. The city was actually covering a lot more of these costs in the past. So, with everything put in storage, rent and those additional things were not, being paid out of the budget. So the budget may have retracted, but the city has always had a keen interest in having a museum and, paying for it. So, I just wanted to clear that up.
I want to, for those.
Could you speak into the microphone, please? Yeah. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I also want to add, for those who may not know this, CMI was started by the Historical Society, and we did have an intent to be in there. But we were told we couldn't be, and we agreed to do the next best we could to keep our organization going and the history alive.
Through the chair, that's true, but you're dealing with a different administration now.
Yes.
Two down the road, actually.
Right, but we were told, and this is the only reason why we started on this other venture, because that was the only option we were given. We were always in the past happy to go in the mansion, but we were told that was not possible. So we didn't want the history to die. So we all said, we're going to do this.
That's to your credit.
One way or another, we're going to keep our history alive.
Through the chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, Lynn. William, on page 210, you have a financial comparison that basically shows the city's assistance to CMI, going back like 5 years. It would be probably beneficial to the council and maybe it's in here and you can point it out. Just basically, because it's my understanding just from listening to Lynn is that the city has supported the Historical Society to a different extent in the past. It would probably be good to know what that's been through the years to kind of get a sense, just so that we can contextualize the request that I'm seeing on paper, which is that they want 50% of their budget covered by the city.
And I can get you that for the next workshop.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you that this building where they're in now, the city council about 2 years ago approved for us to fund $56,000 of the repairs. The repairs were going to be about, I think it cost in total $82,150. They paid $30,000 of the money they had from donations, and the council approved the difference. So we supported them on that. We want to get this building going. I know we had some issues with the sidewalks and the water, and our public works crew went out there. And
They did a great job.
so we're trying to get that. We want to get that open as quickly as possible also. But I can get you the information. And prior, I know when you were originally, I think you were here on Westwood. A little
Yes,
shop on Westwood.
Yes.
And then you moved to where Tacos place on the second floor of the,
For a while.
right?
For a while, yeah.
Originally at Westward, we were receiving 12,000 a year for the rent. We're allowed to use the building, so it's not a cash transaction, but the city is assisting us by letting us use the building.
Exactly.
Fixing raise for the initial changes to the building, but obviously the building needed other things as well, and the city was kind enough to give us the 56 to fix the building. We have a facilities agreement with the city, and that's something we're going to need to look at soon because there's not that much time left on it now because it took a while to be able to get all the funds and all the assistance together.
Any other questions for the?
I have none, Mayor.
Okay, I have a few, please. Well, first of all, I wanted to mention in regards to storage, and I'm sure, like you said, a museum accumulates, and sometimes people leaving the Springs, people with, that have collections that they would like to safeguard will donate to, so that this is something that'll just continue. I know this, it's my understanding that the Smithsonian museums only show 5% of what they have at any one time. So when you go, the collections change a lot, and really 90-something% of their collection is in storage. So that's something that will be an ongoing cost. I think one of the things we probably need to look at and ask you to look at is to, for this next year, is to really evaluate how that can be reduced, because your collection's only going to get bigger. So you're going to need more space, and yet, the costs are an ongoing cost. So perhaps if you can evaluate, I know with storage units, in my experience, you get a very good deal the first year. And then every year after that, they add and add and add, and you don't want to move because it's so much trouble. So it may be reassessing where you have your storage and doing a move every 2 or 3 years. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you, but I'd like to ask that you look at that. You're not open right now, right? Or you are? I'm getting confused with whether you're open for visitors. No,
we're not. Our goal date is in October.
Okay. How do you anticipate your revenues coming in once you open? Are you going to be charging admission? Are you going to be having programs that, where do you anticipate, say in October, when you open?
We have an admission structure, and we have programming. We're approaching the different schools, District 5, with our council on the board, and approaching for students to come with some sort of package deal. I mean, those things are not ironed out now, right? Because there was no building to even show them to have that discussion, but we have started those discussions. They're in their infancy, I would say at this point. But yes, there'll be an admission charge, for that. And most of the money comes from membership and people donating
Membership
money.
in the society?
In the society, yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's really to run the museum.
Do you have an idea of those revenues as far as for services, admission, whatever, what percentage that you anticipate realistically that'll cover your cost? No.
Your
Okay.
guess is
It's
as
fine.
good as
It's fine.
ours.
Okay.
No, we don't.
Museums normally don't make a lot of money, but we're trying to make it as interesting as possible. For example,
Right.
Our first program includes 3 sections. So only those things are taken out of storage.
Right.
The next program will have some other information. And the idea is to keep people interested in coming back.
Right.
It will not be a
So-
museum like the one in Westwood.
Now,
First
this
of all,
is-
you should know also that we've had help from the University of Miami, where we were able to obtain these display tables that are impeccable. And they were for free, so
Right.
it doesn't hurt to have worked there. The other thing is, one of my clients donated shelves. We have a donor that's donated one of the rooms, all the video effects in the
Right.
room.
So
So we're
typically
getting help all the
museums
time.
that we're raising money based on the events or exhibits that we're showing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So people want to sponsor events, exhibits based on, the what you're able to put together. And we have been able to pull multiple things out of storage. And then you have to work your exhibits around the interests, and what you're going to do to drive interest or drive education, right? And partnership with the community, whether it's, the colleges, whether it's, the lower and middle schools, to have students come in, but you're teaching a lesson, a living lesson. It's a curriculum essentially. So, you were raising our money around those, executing on those plans. We have a very strong director. When we have exhibits worked out from now through, I want to say it's next August, and we have good prospects to get grants and and other things to fund those exhibits. And I think that's where you're going to see the money come from to sustain the museum. I think it would be it's difficult to throw in that building, massive parties. There are limitations. That is a school property. There's some things, we're not going to be throwing liquor buffet, venues there, 'cause it's just not possible. So there are some restrictions around, how we can use the building and raise money. We have other ideas to raise money, but typically we were raising money, doing wine and cheese, at our own expense, mind you, doing tour of homes, doing things that we just are not possible for us to do with COVID. It's impossible to go to families and say, please open your historic home and throw, a massive fundraiser with a dinner or a dance. And there are other things that we do. I mean, we throw the Pioneer Dinner. We've been throwing that for as long as I can remember, where we do dinner, dance, etc. And, so there are some things we can do, but we're very small, and,
So,
we'll have
right-
more.
Now, and thank you, Jennifer. Right now in our budget, William, we have the 6,000 or we have the 12,000?
6,000.
The 6,000 is what we have. Okay,
Yeah.
so this will be for consideration, the extra 6,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I want to thank you ladies in the Historical Society. Again, I have never seen harder working, more determined to, to make the museum a reality. And I know it's been a really, really long path, but you guys are
And
doing a
Jennifer
great
has
job.
2 kids to boot. And a big job.
And a full-time job. So, no, I appreciate the time. I love
Thank
our
you.
town, and I appreciate being able to work with everyone and, and learn different things. And it's been a real great experience. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
Well, you're our memory keepers for the whole community. So, it's, we have to remember that it's a group of volunteers that are working so hard to keep the history of Miami Springs available for all future generations and even for us right now. I know certain times when anything comes up, I'll call somebody from your site and ask them, how is this or when did this happen? And
Yeah.
your extreme expertise and knowledge in
But
our
that
history
shows
is
what
always.
this city is. This city is loved by everybody here. And once you're here, even if you're in Georgia, you still donate to the Miami Springs
Springs
Historical
Historical Society.
Keep it coming.
So,
Right. I know.
All right.
We're hoping to be completely funded on our own.
yes,
You know,
that's always been
obviously,
our goal.
and to not interfere with the plans and the things that make, that make things work, in the other building. Obviously, if we were in the other building in the Curtis Mansion, which just food for thought, it would be a lot easier to tell our story. So we're like one arm tied behind our back, and this is not about whether or not we have people that are willing to cooperate, with us. It's just, we don't have the shining star to
Well,
that's the largest part of our history.
And I think with Councilman Best, his suggestion is, and I know it's been revisited in the past, but everything has its timing, proper
Exactly.
timing. And perhaps right now might be a good time to renew those conversations. I don't know if, we've been putting a lot of effort in making our advisory boards more effective. If
Mhm.
you think going through the Historic Preservation Board would be an effective way for the two entities to communicate, or if you'd rather do it on your own, I'll leave that up to you. Get back to one of us if you'd like
I
it to
think
be on the
just
board.
comes down to whether or not you put our name on the lease. I mean,
Okay.
we
Well,
can,
we'll leave that
right,
because
we
that's another discussion, but I would
right.
like perhaps, since we have
we
Juliana
can speak with
here
Richard
and
and the board
for
there
y'all
and Juliana.
to
I mean, I
renew
know that Juliana's
conversations
been
and
nothing
just-
but pleasant,
Yes.
to us, but
Very cooperative.
well,
but
we're going to ask you to just kind of based on what Vice
Right.
Mayor Best has been saying, to revisit the
right.
possibilities
And we're
with
happy.
the thought of, it's the funding. The
We're-
city is very, very, very tight. Our
Right.
budget is very lean. We're going to try to, spread it
same.
as far as, but we have a lot of needs of things
Sure.
that have to be funded. So
Of course.
in the interest of, and for nothing else, to,
Well, we welcome that conversation and look forward to it.
budget.
And I just want to reiterate, we're happy to work with the Curtis Mansion to work that out, however it goes, but we do have to have a home. So I wasn't saying that to put pressure on anyone. What I'm saying is that
Can't be moving.
we legally need a place to live and to have our address that allows us to
and you do.
to do those
You have
things.
the
So we do
museum.
have it now,
Right.
which is good. But if the idea would be that people would want to see these two organizations come together under one roof to save money or to do things differently, you have to consider the goals of the two different groups. And, and that's just something I put that back to the council because I've heard this over the, last 6 years. And we do, I think we do have to look at, will we be having a museum then in that space, and an event venue, and then the proper thing to do would be to make, carve out space for us on the lease of that facility so that we can do that. And
Well, I think all
that-
we're asking based
yeah.
on what Councilman Best, and I know this has been going in the past, but just to start conversations again and just see if there's any possibilities with the main goal is,
reduce
to
cost.
reduce costs
Exactly.
for both organizations, both entities. And if there's something that can be reduced,
Well,
it is, and we'll leave that up to you because this isn't the meeting for that, but
correct.
just,
But it isn't just to reduce cost.
to make it
guys.
more
It's to
effective
make
too.
it more productive and to
Yes,
make it more
more
efficient.
profitable.
desirable.
And it is,
You're
from
absolutely right.
from our perspective, telling the story efficiently and productively can only lead, to greater imagination as to what could happen here in our town. So
I think a
thank you.
combination of the two entities would go forward vastly in causing that to happen.
Right,
But both would complement each other. That's kind of my thought going forward.
right. I don't think we share dissimilar thoughts. So anyway,
Thank you.
Thanks, you
Thank you
guys.
very
Thanks
much.
a lot.
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
Yes,
And
you
thank
bet.
you
bet.
for preserving
Jen.
the memories for Miami Springs, the history of Miami Springs.
We had to do some field trips in there. From the Historical Society to the Curtis Mansion and all out. Yeah, how fun. Thank you.
We used to do tour of homes at one time.
I remember.
In a bus. Well, the tour of homes party was another thing. But before that, we had a bus tour of all the historical sites. So we've been, through the years recreating and, trying to invent what we could to not have to ask for money. But we need help.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there are no more questions on city council budget. We can move on to city clerk.
I have one more before we move on to the
Okay.
clerk, if you would, Mr. Manager. And that's the city events. I draw the council's attention to page 2.3.
Right.
$8,000 for city events.
Correct.
Typically, we don't use all this money. It's nice to have some there for throwing a couple grand here, a couple grand there. Can we chop that in half and save $4,000?
Sure. Council's
Do
willing
we even need a
to,
category like that? We'll just use the money as we need it. What do you think?
No, it's not. It's good. It's good to have it there and
Have a category?
appropriated, but I don't know that we need that much. Is my point. And this could be an opportunity to reduce $4,000.
I
Could we
agree.
set that aside as a suggestion
Sure,
on this
sure. Yes, ma'am.
list of things that
That's-
we'll
that's my
look
thought.
at and rework
That's my thought.
of city event
It's gonna go somewhere.
budget?
All right.
And I guess we're okay with all the rest of this here. The Florida League of Cities, the anniversary, the installation dinner. How about all this traveling and stuff?
I guess some of these events on here too, may or may not happen.
Yeah, really.
The Optimus Barbecue again,
We don't know.
they did have it. I believe last year we removed the Miami-Dade installation dinner ad.
Mayor, I think we kept that. I think
kept
we
that?
did. Yeah, for the ad purpose.
Okay.
Right. Just to have our name in it, you know. No, I stand corrected. You're absolutely right. It wasn't the Miami-Dade installation dinner. It was the League of Cities, the anniversary ad, just above it.
Oh, right.
Is any of us even
What's the Miami-Dade installation dinner then?
That's the one for Miami-Dade,
Come
Florida
to
League of Cities,
annual dinner.
Miami-Dade, Florida League. Just the chapter of Miami-Dade County.
Okay.
Do any of us go to this? I don't.
The Miami-Dade?
Should we
Several-
whack?
Several members have gone in the
Yes.
past.
Some have.
We go to
Yeah.
and it's important, the Miami-Dade and they, we work together with these communities, so it's
Yeah.
important
Yeah,
for us to
yeah.
keep that cohesive
Relationship.
with, with the organization that kind of,
Well, maybe to attend and to talk to people, but for $1,000 for an ad for a dinner,
Who do we do the ad with?
it's, the ad is in their program.
it's with their
their-
program.
It's
Yeah.
the program when you go to the dinner that they have all the cities. Some of them take, I think ours is probably the minimal because some cities have a full page. I noticed we've
Yeah.
always had like a little,
We have representation. Yes, yes.
all right. I think it's important for us to
Yeah.
keep
Okay.
the League of
All right.
Cities.
Just a
For
thought.
our city as well.
And how about the shred event? Is that
Shred is I am.
A lot of
very
people
for
using
that.
it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's an excellent.
Very popular.
disregard?
Okay. All right, we'll come back with
All
the
right.
city events because we already have several city events there, and then the 8,000 for other events.
Okay.
Perhaps we can put that on our
Gotcha.
working list. Massage.
all right, so let's go to page 3-4 of the city clerk's budget, section 3. As I mentioned there, the proposed budget is about $4,200 or 1.3% higher than last year. And reason for that being her budget includes a request for $5,000 for a new server for Laserfish. And you'll see the expenses listed on 3-5. And there's a detail of the expenses on pages 3-7 and 3-8, where she breaks down each line item, what they're for. And of course, Erica's here to answer any questions.
Yes, and just for clarification, Laserfish is our records management program. All of our documents as far as resolutions, building plans are archived in that program. And it's good to update the servers just for not crashing purposes.
Any questions for Erica?
Eric, did you get your window yet?
No, I didn't even put it on the wish list.
window.
I don't see it on here this year.
He has
I
a
don't
pro
see it on here
Oh,
this
pro
year.
window, yeah.
She want now she's she's
You want a balcony now?
she's gone down to at least give me a picture window.
Oh, okay, that's
A
funny.
mural.
Just kidding.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Okay. I just had a question. For the Laserfish, is this going to be, how often do you request for a new machine like these?
Oh,
Never.
like every several years, about
Okay.
3-4 years.
Okay. Because I was looking at the maintenance cost, it's almost like a new machine. So I was just wondering. If that, okay, makes sense.
If there's nothing on the clerk, then let's
Do
go
we
to,
have, well, let me just ask you,
oh.
do we have a Herald subscription? Do I see it
We-
under here, under, and I know I've asked in the past if we're getting the Herald, and I was told no.
I haven't got it.
We the electronic one.
You got the E version.
Yes.
Okay.
You read it every morning.
Like we don't get the actual paper.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have access to the electronic.
We
Subscription.
yes, when it works.
Yeah, no, that logging in sometimes I find is really.
Yeah,
I have
it's
a problem with
quirky
that. I don't know why.
sometimes. Yeah.
where to go to code compliance?
Anyone have any questions, Councilman Fahet?
I'm just looking at the contractual services on 3.7 for the city clerk, just, I think that Erica could speak to it and better than, because it's their budget, but, I'm just trying to look at everything to see where we could try to get us some money. But it seems like, because so actually I do have a question. So the $5,000 for a new server for the Laserfish, and I know that's a program that we've been doing where we're trying to get all of our archived things electronically done. So the additional licenses is that for other people to be able to scan? How is that different from the ongoing scanning project, which is $3,000?
Correct. Those are two separate items. The server is the actual component that holds the information. The
That's the
license,
hardware.
right? The hardware, and then the licenses that's for the software purposes, allowing access to individuals here to scan, to view, to print. There's just an annual ongoing, and it seems like we're increasing the usage of Laserfish. That's why we need to always add on the licenses every year.
And the scanning project, I think I remember, that's a company that scans the different documents that can be different sizes and different formats and scans it for us, correct?
To the chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Erica, how many licenses do we have right now?
Currently, I think we have 15 to 18. And we're always trying to expand the program. I know the ideal or the goal is to have a paperless office. That's the goal. So we would like to encourage other departments as far as Public Works, Senior Center.
Okay,
to
so
start
this is a
scanning. So
cumulative
it's starting to
thing.
Globalize the
Okay.
records management.
So you think
program.
5 additional would
Oh
help us
yes,
get
like
there?
every year we're always asking because we want to encourage the scanning and archiving, just to save room in office, to cut down on paper. We are on a disposition, so we follow the state disposition schedule, so that way we don't have to retain records for so many years, but we do scan long-term retention documents. So
we're going to need 5 every year, or?
I've been asking 5 every year.
Yep.
And we can't do with a little bit less, maybe 3?
I mean, we can, yes, but that would probably prevent me from allowing access to a person.
Or more than one.
Erica, let's
I don't know.
look at, I'm looking at page 3.5.
Okay.
Okay, can you tell us about some of these expenses, other contractual services? Let's look at some of the larger expenses, the 31,000. What is
I
that?
was looking
Is this under contractual services?
It's on page 3
on 3-5?
Look at 3-7, Mayor.
7 will break it down.
On the top of page 3.7, it has a breakdown of the 31,200.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, thank you. I see it. Okay.
Yes, we
Yeah, yeah.
set
So it's mainly the election.
right. We set money
The-
for each year for the election. For
Is that the right
following
date there? 2023?
Yes.
Remember,
up
Councilman, that
front.
a
Yep,
few
yep,
years
yep.
ago, instead of doing 40,000
Gotcha.
one year,
Yes,
we
sir, I
put
do.
20 each year.
I
to-
do. Yeah, I do.
Okay. So there was, I know this past year we had some extra costs because of the elections that we had and the resignations
Yep.
and things. Did we go over last year with,
You talking about this year or?
well, I guess this year
For the
that we're in
special
fiscal
election,
year-
you mean?
fiscal year
21?
that we're in right now.
We
with-
piggybacked off
had-
of the counties,
For the
so it
one.
was significantly less as a standalone.
Okay,
So there was
for the extra elections that we had.
That was a
Mhm.
general election, and we had the 2 seats on the council.
So, right,
Mhm.
Correct.
okay. Any other questions?
Mayor, I had a question. I thought I had asked it and perhaps I was muted. But back to 3.7, the ongoing scanning project, that I think I remember that, Erica, that's a company that helps us to scan archived documents that may be different formats and things like that.
The ongoing.
I'm sorry,
scanning.
I didn't hear you. You were breaking up.
Okay, sorry. On page 3.7, under contractual services, above where it's the additional licenses and license
On the
insurance.
ongoing,
The ongoing scanning project, that's a company that we pay to help us to scan archive documents that can be different formats and stuff, right?
correct.
Correct. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
No other questions? All right, thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to section 11, page 11-3, that's code compliance. The proposed budget for code compliance is $49,633, or 23.4% higher than fiscal year 2021. Increase is mainly due to the addition of a 0.5 full-time employee to the department, as well as increase in health insurance costs. There's an additional person being added that's going to be split between building department and code compliance to help code compliance basically with the administrative work that they need to do so that the other 2 officers can be out in the street more. And the other half of the time will be spent in the building department helping with the administrative functions there. Because as you know, after COVID, we've been swamped with permits and work in the city. We have major projects going on in the city now. So they need assistance in that end. And as far as the health insurance, not only is it the 5% that the health insurance cost went up,
Mhm.
but we also had some single or married employees that gave birth during the year. So that changed to family coverage, and that change also causes an increase in your health insurance costs. So Robert Quintero, he's a code compliance officer. He's here if you have any specific questions on his budget.
Hey, Robert.
And I know Ulysses is on.
Ulysses
too,
is
right?
on.
Yes.
How's it going, Mayor and Council?
Hey, Robert.
Any questions for Ulysses?
Questions for Robert?
Or Robert?
Through the chair, one of the largest conversations or most frequent conversations I get from people in town are relative to the customer service in code compliance and in the building department. Can you speak to us about that?
I think we've been doing an excellent job as far as customer service goes. Rosemary and myself are some of the most friendliest code enforcement officers, I believe.
I'm not asking you to defend your.
No. I understand.
What I am asking you is there any room for improvement in how you handle folks?
At the moment, I don't believe so. I think we do we have a tough position. So
Yes.
we're delivering bad news, and I think we have mastered the art of giving bad news in a nice way, and working with our residents and helping them learn and what our purpose is in the city and why we're here.
I guess Robert and Ulysses, have we ever had this, the 5.5 person in the past and cut back? Or, so this is new staffing and the code enforcement is an extremely difficult job. You're not, like you said, you're very rarely, very often delivering bad news or
Which I think
what somebody can
was
perceive as antagonistic news.
So in the past, I believe we have had 3 officers. And since I've been a code enforcement officer, we've been 2. And we are a one-man show, Rosemary and I. We do everything from mailing out a notice to summons and subpoenas for our code enforcement boards, our packets to present in the code enforcement boards. All the phone calls, we take them in directly. In other cities, typically there's a clerk that assists the code enforcement officers so they can continue to do their actual job out in the field. So this will help us immensely.
Yeah, because they spend half their time on the field and then the other half of the time in the office doing paperwork. So by doing this, we're hoping
and this has helped immensely as well. And we thank you for this.
Yeah.
We can, with these iPads, we can create cases out in the field in real time, verify somebody who might be doing work without permits in real time. We're bothering our building department clerks less because we have the information in our hands. So this has been really a great plus for our department.
Okay. Through the chair?
Yes.
Hi, Robert. I see here last year on your 19 to 20 accomplishments that you did 144 zoning reviews. I don't see that on your 20 to 21 accomplishments. Do you have that?
So I was assisting our city planner in the last 2 years doing plan review. I guess when we created the accomplishments, I didn't get those specific numbers.
Okay.
But I have helped this fiscal year with planning review as needed.
Okay. Enough so that it's enough to hire a part-time.
Well, no.
No.
Chris Hyde is completely capable of performing those reviews. It was just when as needed, maybe he doesn't have a backup. So
Because that was a lot.
Yes.
A lot of reviews.
Through the chair, Robert, real quick, on page 2 of accomplishments, you list here that you have successfully, or your department has successfully prosecuted 46 cases who were presented before the Code Enforcement Board, 16 old business and 30 new. Do you have any idea how much revenue you generated with that?
I don't. Maybe William might be able to speak to that, but we have had some cases that have generated some revenue.
Okay.
Our Code Enforcement Board.
Yes, Council. Did you, 1 second, Bob, Council, Vice Mayor? Did you have any?
I'll get it from the manager.
Okay, Councilman Fahet?
Yeah, I just had a question. I'm sorry, Robert, if I cut you off. Looking at page 11.4, I'm just looking at the dollar increase, decrease column. Can you speak to 2 things in particular? Fleet maintenance, where I guess you guys are anticipating an increase of $700 from, I guess, the previous year, and also lien recording fees, where you're anticipating an extra $600 that you need to budget for the coming year?
So it was actually a decrease in fleet maintenance that was requested. We do have a new vehicle that we will be having, we will be using hopefully this year, and we do expect to use less of our fleet maintenance since one of our older vehicles is going to be ultimately retired.
The service, right, that does that?
Yeah, so the city Public Works Department, they do a great job to assist us every single time when our vehicles need service.
It was a good move a few years ago, and we did that.
Thank you, and I apologize. Those are decreases. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Go ahead, Mayor.
No, go ahead.
Robert, are you referencing the new truck, the F-150 that is to
That
be?
was approved, I believe, last budget. Yes.
Okay.
But it
Yeah,
does
'cause
take
I-
apparently a long time for us
We
to
haven't
actually get
received
it.
it yet.
Yeah, because I had a
Ordered
question.
last year.
I know. I saw.
It's a shortage of vehicles.
I saw the one that's making do the other day on the streets, and I said that's got to be the replacement coming.
My question was, is that if, I mean, code compliance, they go around doing zoning reviews, inspections, stuff like that in that nature. I was wondering if we could get maybe a more economical, green-friendly car. I don't see why if an F-150 is needed for code compliance based on
For
the
code
work.
enforcement, for code enforcement, the main
enforcement?
reason for that is the alleys. The alleys.
We're in the alleys a lot.
You're in the
We're in
alleys?
the alleyways a lot. We don't actually do zoning inspections out in the field. Where we go through the alleys, and our major problem areas are usually in the alleys, because the overgrowth, sometimes our residents don't go to their alleyways, and they don't notice how much their vegetation is growing.
So you code
currently
enforce
we
through
have
the alleys as well.
2 vehicles that are low to the ground, and actually Councilman Fajed and I drove
No, I
for something
understand.
else, and we hit a bump because it's just so low.
I get it.
You have to remember the 2 vehicles they have, they get hand-me-downs from police. They have a Prius, which used to be a police vehicle. I don't know how old that thing is. And
And
they
a
have
Dodge Charger.
That used to be a police vehicle. So a lot of times what we'll do is, instead of auctioning them off, if another department needs them, we'll give it to them.
Okay.
And the rest of them we'll just auction off. So those are the 2 that they're using now, and that's why, in reference to Councilman Fajad's, that's why there's a decrease in fleet maintenance, because those 2 cars are constantly in the shop.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
They are.
Any other questions?
I have none.
Well, for Robert or William, this regular salary, the increase of almost 24,000, is that the half? Half is being billed to you and half will be billed to
the
The
building
building
department.
department. And when we get to the
Okay,
building
for the
department,
new-
you'll see it there.
Okay. And the person that would be hired for that, what title would they have?
That's
It's a new
Ulysses.
position. You're creating a new position, right?
Yes.
Clerk?
So the person's already within our department. She currently works with us.
Uh-huh.
She has worked closely with Rosemary and I in the past. As far as the title, I don't believe the Ulysses has settled on one, but maybe an administrative assistant.
Okay, so this is somebody from the
That's
inside
cor-
that you are anticipating can fill that
This
position?
is an existing person that's there now is going to split their time, and then we'll have to hire a new person to replace that one.
Her
Correct.
position, okay. All right, I was wondering, as far as training for the new person, if we hire a new person and they're unfamiliar, what sort of training budget we need to do to make sure, consistency. I think one of the biggest issues that I hear with code compliance, and I know it's difficult, is the consistency. And I know a lot of it is because our codes many of them are obsolete or outdated, need to be brought up and stuff. So I want to make sure that anyone that we're bringing up to assist you is, properly trained to assist from both sides.
So we're anticipating them to be really assisting us with administrative work, paperwork,
Mhm.
that I believe we can train them well.
House.
Yes, to do and perform correctly. As far as a question goes for code compliance, they will always continue to come to the code compliance officer for now.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Robert.
So let's go to section 21,
Thank
which
you.
is the building department. Can you see if Ulysses is on?
Yes, sir.
He is? Ulysses, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On page 21-3, the proposed budget is $99,780, or 10.3% higher than the prior year. Increase is due to additional funding for inspector pay due to expected increase in building activity next fiscal year from new construction. As mentioned before, an additional 0.5 full-time employee admin staff for building department. And they also have the purchase of a new vehicle for building and code use, which is the F-150 that we talked about. Just as a point of reference, and according to state law, the fees generated by the building department is a separate fund from the general fund. So any cuts or additions you do here will not affect the millage, since this is a separate fund. In accordance with state law, the fees generated by the building function should be used for the exclusive purpose of funding the operating costs of the building activity. And on page 21-4, you'll see the budget. So Ulysses is on if you have any specific questions.
Hi, Ulysses.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Just looking now.
Ulysses, what did we do last year relative to your budget? Do you recall? I have an idea, but I think you might know better.
Councilman, can you repeat the question?
I beg your pardon?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What did we do with your budget last fiscal year? Did it go up? Did it stay the same?
It's pretty much the same. The only difference, like the manager was saying, we are expecting a new employee. We did spend some money on the truck that's coming, hopefully, I would say by the end of August. And right. But basically, it's pretty much the same. The only major change that it really didn't affect the money-wise, but it's just the shift. The inspector and the engineer, the structural engineer, both became part-time employees. So there is no more contractual pay. It's basically everybody now is a city employee, part-time city employee.
So you are employing no one on a contractual basis. Everything is within the city, either full-time or part-time, correct?
That's correct. That's part of the major change, but it was just a shift. You know, it's not the money-wise stays the same.
Ulysses, what was the reason for that? Why did we switch? I know there's been discussion back and forth as to whether they should be, or whether it's better to
the main reason they switched was because I believe Heidi was asking for the insurance that they needed to have in order to drive around the city, and some type of insurance that I get, some liability insurance that they need to have. I know one of them did have it because he does own a business, but it didn't comply with the requirements that the state asked for. So the best thing was them to become a city employee, which they did.
They use our cars?
No, they use their own car. That's the reason that they needed to have like a vehicle liability and so on. And I think there was another insurance that they needed to have, which they did not have, like a hold harmless or something like that, like what a doctor would have. Something like that. Anyway.
What started all this, council, about, I would say about 10 years ago, we had the IRS audit. Remember that, Bob?
Yeah, I do.
On benefits. And they came in, looked at everything. And back then, 10 years ago, the city was paying all these inspectors on as independent contractors. And they said that's a no. If they're on a 1099, they have to be a corporation or an LLC. Otherwise, they have to be employees. So at that time, got all our inspectors and told them, do you want to be a part-time employee? Or do you have a corporation or a company? We can set you up that way to pay you on a 9.
That's right.
And most of them became part-time employees. A few had and they became that's what started all this.
Skip Reed.
Skip Reed, yeah.
Okay, so does anybody have any other?
Just one question.
Yes.
Mr. Chair. How are you?
How you doing?
Good. I'm just here doing my due diligence.
That's right.
So I see last year's accomplishments. It's noted that you provided customer service to over 17,430 residents. And then in this year's, well, one was 11,400. what was the big difference there? Was it because maybe you had a lack of help and that's why, we need to get somebody there to push through on these residents, or it's
I think it's probably because of
COVID?
yeah.
Think it's COVID?
I think so. I mean, we're expecting a lot of work this year. I know that the visits to the building department have increased a lot. So I believe that is due to the fact that we weren't so accessible last year, in visits to the building department. And a lot of times it depends when you got that, when, the date that you actually got the projections. Sometimes they change a little bit too.
Yeah. I only have a 70-day difference, but okay. I got it. Because it was the 17,000 was based on 249 days and the 11,000 was based on 170. But yeah, give or take, that's a COVID impact. That's it. I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
To the chair, I had a question.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. Hey, Ulysses, good to see you.
Hey, Councilman.
I'm well. I had two questions from page 21 for just increases from the previous year. If you could just speak to what they are and why. Under travel and per diem, I see that it's going up by $1,800 roughly. And then down at the bottom under administrative charge, it's going up 13,000, which relative to, I think, 337,000 is there. But can you just speak to those two? Thank you.
Let me get that in front.
I'll handle the administrative charge and you can handle the travel fees. The administrative charge is based on the budget for different departments. They pay us a percent for HR, for legal, for city clerk, for finance. So since the budget go up for those departments, you'll see the administrative charge accordingly.
That's
What was the section for travel and per diem?
they're for these self-funded departments or for all of them?
Excuse me?
This is for these self-funded departments or for all of them?
This
administrative?
this happens for departments.
For the
Building and
self-funded
zoning,
one.
sanitation, and stormwater.
Yep.
Any other question, Councilman Fahet?
I think he had one on travel.
Yeah, the travel and per diem that is budgeted for $1,800 above what it was the previous year.
For training, perhaps?
Yeah, but I'm trying to look at my what section, what number is the account? Do you know?
It's account
4520.
4000.
4000.
I think what happened in the previous years, you see that it runs about 3840.
Yeah.
And then in 2021, it went down 1,000 only because of COVID. And now it's back up to its normal
Anticipate
cycle.
what they had originally. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
I'm good, Mayor.
William, so with budget, how does it work with the surplus, the net department? Because the department, I understand
they
the
have,
money that they get, they has to the department.
The
and
building
they fund
department
themselves.
department right now has about $1.6 million reserve. The problem is, just think what happens with a building department. Let's say somebody's building a hotel, and today they pay fees of $500,000-$600,000. The expenses for that will happen over the next 2 years or 3 years as this building is built. So you'll have all the revenue coming in 1 year that goes into reserves, but you have the expense coming in over
The expenses for the power.
for that particular project, right? Because they're paid ahead of time, but the expenses are being incurred as this thing is being.
See that with the circle right now.
Oh, you're seeing that?
Yeah, you're seeing evidence of credit.
This 1.5 million reserve, that about normal every year?
Yeah.
For the
I think over the years even higher when we were at the community center and
It'll go up and down each year. You get new revenues in that'll
questions for Ulysses?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ulysses.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Ulysses.
Let's go to section 12, services. Hot seat. Go to page 12-5. See that his budget is about $16,000 or 4% lower than current year. And on page 12-6 and 12-7 and 12-8 shows you a breakdown of the different line items. His biggest decrease is in other contractual services, right, George? 25,000?
Yeah, that's
158?
that's right. 3,800 more.
What caused that $25,000 savings?
What caused it?
Good question.
What did we spend on last year? That was
Other contractual services, 25,000.
it's going down. That was it had to do with executime.
That you got rid of, and it's under control now, kind of thing.
We're still using executime, but there was
I'm sorry, could you speak a little louder, please?
I'm sorry. I've got
You can take
allergies.
George, you can take your mask off. You're sitting down.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it had to do with executime, which is a service that we use for timekeeping. It was part of Central Square services that we use also that the city uses for finance and public works, runs everything pretty much. They removed executime from the service. They went with a new service called Timekeeper, I think, Time Clock Plus. We decided to stay with executime. There was a savings there. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but
93 to 167, according to this.
93 to 167.
Yes, sir.
Executive services.
3400. I'm going to pay 12 page
6. 00.
3400, yeah, other contractor. Equipment 22, the company enforcement. You made a move and you somehow saved 27 grand according to this.
We didn't make the
26
move.
grand.
The move was made by Central Square.
Okay,
They're
so
no
you
longer-
realized the savings then.
There was a savings. I don't remember it being that much though. But because we stayed with executime, we no longer had, we removed that amount from the contract with Central Square. That's what it was. We had to renegotiate the contract with those guys. It had to come down from 129 to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly what it was. That in combination with the clocks we didn't have to purchase for the service. We've since had to replace a couple of the clocks, but
Right.
Yeah.
But nothing substantial though.
no. Well, clocks are $2,700 each.
To the chair.
Yes.
Can you tell me what I'm not an IT person, so I don't know. I have here an item for Amazon services, DR plus hosted servers. Are we hosting Amazon?
That's partial. I've always had that for sort of a disaster recovery service. In case something goes wrong with the hardware servers we have here, we can switch over and host it on Amazon. Seems to be.
Are there other type of companies that provide that service?
They are. There's a couple. There's Microsoft. They have Azure, and there's also Google.
Have we ever used them here in the city?
We tried Azure, the Microsoft version, and it was a lot more expensive.
Okay.
The AWS service is seems to be the smoothest and most cost effective for what we've been using. we don't use it a whole lot. This past year, we started using it more because we upgraded the mail server. And so in order to get that done, I didn't have enough space on other servers to move the police department's mail. So what we did was move the police department to AWS temporarily.
So you-
It's gone on a lot longer than we planned. So
So
right
you-
now we're moving them back.
I think for police items, that's a safe server to have our.
Well, no, we already have a server for them. We're right in the process of moving mail from the AWS services to back to in-house.
So
on
we're
our
not
own
going to be
server.
using Amazon anymore.
We will, but it's not going to be. We had set aside $3,600 a year before.
4250. Oh, I don't know. I just see 4250 here for this incoming year. Wait, sorry. Yeah,
AWS?
33,600. You're correct.
3,600, yeah. So that averages about $300 a month.
I was just
That
trying to
was-
see if we can.
Before that was a sort of backup plan. We hadn't used it. We used a small bit for testing. A couple of services we use that are pretty inexpensive. But this past year, we had to actually take advantage of that and use it. We're paying for the majority of it's going to the mail services for the police department.
Do you
So the
think?
goal is to try and get them out of there
Yeah.
before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. So right now we can't do without them.
Without AWS, no.
Okay.
Right. If we can cut them out, then police has no mail right now.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, Mayor, if I might. George, I don't know how you do it. If somebody was sitting up here right now, that when you first came here and what you were working out of and what you had going on versus what you got going on now, I mean, we all see this almost every week. There's 2 or 3 times he's shutting it down, and 20 minutes later, it's up and running again.
Always.
How do you do this?
Out of practice.
No, hats off to you is what I'm saying. Seriously.
And it's
Seriously, you are a credit. You are, no, I mean this. I mean this sincerely. You are indeed a credit to the city in terms of the technology that's out there right now that we never had before and everything. Nice job.
And he never gets flustered when
Nope.
you call him and say, this
Never.
isn't working,
Never.
everything's
Never.
out. He's like, oh, okay, let
Never.
me see.
Unbelievable.
Thank you, George. Is it just you and Jose?
Right now, Miriam just started with us also.
So is
For the
that,
time. So that's those are 3 of us. Jose's with the police department.
Yeah, that's exclusively.
so how does that work with the salaries as far as, is Miriam a new
employee.
New
But
employee?
she's filling a spot that was already available.
It was already
We had-
funded.
That used to be Jose's position.
Mhm.
Because we had Mark used to run the police department before. Now Jose's been moved to the police department.
Okay, and
So
Miriam's
his spot
filling
opened up.
Jose's position? Is that,
That's what it is, yeah.
okay.
Yes, Mayor, that was a question I was going to ask because on page 12.9, it still shows as the assistant IT manager being vacant, but Miriam took that spot, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And I agree with Vice Mayor Best. I know it's a 24-hour, 24/7 there, the threats are never stopping. And when you have so many different city functions going on and we're all depending on technology, it's a massive task. Thank you.
And then also with
Keep
the
it running
city,
smoothly.
Mayor, also, if I might add, also with the pandemic and the cops working out of the trailer and staff working out of the community center,
Yeah, that was
you had to plumb all that in and stuff and make all that work.
We had a lot of help. So.
Well, the best thing, how about when dispatch was working out of that vehicle?
Yeah, I know.
And they couldn't be in there, so we had to move them to the rec center.
Right.
They were actually in the heat room, and he hooked them up.
I believe it. He needs a raise, William. We'll figure it out somewhere here.
You can go to my job. It's nice to meet you officially, by the way.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, any other
Thank you.
questions, Councilman?
Thank you, Jordan.
That's what's Councilman Fahet. Any other questions for George?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, George. I know
Thanks.
this is a task that
Thanks,
just
George.
keeps changing almost every year, probably dimensions of what you've got to do, look out for.
Yeah,
and
it stays
protect, and
interesting.
it's-
There's also, it's always something new every year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Let's jump
Good night.
to section 8, which is this is the easiest one, is the city planner. It's basically a 1.5 person operation. The budget is
Word.
basically about the same as, it's basically, Chris is, what's the number? Myra, city council office, part-time person, 5% of her time. Chris, paperwork, board, meetings and all that. Basically, oh, that was Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi,
Hi, Chris.
Councilman.
You,
Yes?
Councilman.
I believe
last
Chris is
year-
experiencing the same thing I am, but I couldn't hear you, William. I couldn't hear. The only thing I could hear was Chris. I don't know if you're experiencing the same thing, Chris.
I definitely am. I knew who was speaking, but I had no idea what was being said.
Correct. I experienced the same thing. We lost all audio of you guys there.
can you hear us?
Barely. Go ahead and speak again.
Can you hear us?
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
It's okay. Thank you,
Chris,
Councilman.
how about you? Can you try? Let's see if we can hear you, Chris.
Sure.
Chris, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, there we go.
Chris, I believe it was, and I guess it wasn't last year because we were in the middle of the pandemic, but the year before you had asked for training, money for training. I'm guessing that was never used.
But that's for
That was
the,
for the
annual
convention?
conference, right, Chris?
Right, for
No,
attending
the
the annual conference.
training is different, but it has not been used in the last 2 years because there was nowhere to go to between train, quite frankly. Education and training. That's my conferences, state and national APA conferences. Sorry, I thought there was a separate section for training, but that it is the same. Education and training is essentially the two conferences. And they were budgeted the last 2 years and were not used. And we actually have the state coming up in September, and I will not attend it.
So Chris, would you need, I'm sorry, through the chair. Chris, would you need all 5,500 if you're not attending that conference?
Probably because for some reason it dropped from 6,500, which sort of put that 1,000 in for the local conference. I'm not sure why. But yeah, it's between registration, the hotel, the airfare, per diem and whatnot. It's normally around there. I try to be as economical as I can, of course, but it's right near there. I hope to have a little left untouched, but not a lot. I wanted enough wiggle room that what I wanted was there.
Chris, my understanding is you haven't attended the conference for several years, right? And you were requesting this to be able to attend?
Right. I was never sent until about 3 years ago, and then I went to both state and national, and then they were both canceled the next 2 years. And like I say, the state conference now, I will not be attending either. So this will really come to be used in May at the national conference.
I guess the question, Chris, is you're planning to attend one conference next fiscal year?
Well, next fiscal year, I probably would do both because this state conference was part of this fiscal year. So yeah, next year I'd probably plan on attending both. It depends on the agenda, what looks interesting, what the themes are, if I feel it's beneficial to me or if it's worthwhile. If it's not, I don't want to go.
Through the chair. Thank you. So Chris, are these trainings they're accessible to you to enhance your line of work for knowledge, or are they typically they're not mandatory, obviously?
No, they're not mandatory, but they are very helpful. They're helpful in picking, and there's all kinds of tracks, different 3 or 4 different tracks, and then many sessions within those tracks. So it's a great learning experience, and I think, quite honestly, another thing is just to get out and meet other planners, especially other planners from Florida. We usually have a little Florida planner get together, even at the national conference, and just to see what other people are doing, feeling, thinking, trends in the field. I find it very helpful.
What do they have? Over webcasting options where maybe it's less if you don't want to attend physically, just so you don't miss out on that.
They probably do. I know during COVID, obviously they did. It was really the only way one could attend. I have a feeling that they once they set up that system for attending virtually, they probably didn't drop it. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to the state conference. So the next thing is when I start to get information on the national, what the various options are. But keep in mind, you can pick up some of the knowledge, but it's not the same. You really can't participate by asking questions or talking to the speakers afterwards about some points that they made, or meeting other planners. It's just a different experience. It's like the kids going to school virtually. It's not the same thing.
I know you're kind of isolated here, that you're not in a large city where there are a lot of planners working together here.
Right, absolutely.
Any other questions?
Madam Mayor.
Chris, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Good to see you, sir.
Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, let's get to the biggie. Section 13, Public Works.
Yvette and Lazaro, thank you for your patience.
Let me just explain. The Public Works Department is made up of 5 different divisions, which you'll see listed 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, from administration down to fleet maintenance. We'll take them one at a time, but I just want to give you the total. Yeah, no, but this is in total, the Public Works budget for fiscal year 21-22 is $2,257,176, or 9.2% lower than fiscal year 2021. The decrease is mainly due to the cost of the City Hall remediation that we encountered during the current fiscal year. The first budget we're doing on page 13-2 is the administration budget. That budget is $63,717, or 15.7% higher than the current year, due to an additional full-time administrative staff to assist Public Works, customer service, and other administrative functions. You'll see their budget on page 13-3, and detailed of each line item on 13-4 and -5. And I have Lazaro and Lizette here. In case you have any specific questions on this part of the budget, the administration budget.
Through the chair. I had a question about, it seems like there's an $1,100 increase for rentals and leases. Maybe Les can speak to that.
Yeah, as you know, things are going up, things are getting expensive, and it's a Toshiba copier.
Yeah, our contract with Toshiba, I'm just gonna remove this if I
Yeah.
can. Our contract with Toshiba had not changed as it had changed for other departments. So we had to
go up in
Upgrade.
price. They kind of overlooked us for a few years, which was great financially. But now
Then it caught up to you.
They discovered.
they discovered us.
Somebody found it.
Yeah, they found us.
Whoops.
Yeah.
We have fallen through the cracks.
Yes.
It's all right while it lasted.
Our overtime budget is really low. Oh, I guess because this is just the administrative. I'm thinking of the other.
Administration,
Right,
yeah.
right. Okay, that makes sense. It didn't
Management.
seem. Any other questions?
No, it looks pretty clean to me.
Okay, then let's move on to streets and streetlights division. That's on page 13-6. The proposed budget is $31,258, or 7.3% higher. Budget includes $25,000 for citywide tree planting, and this year we have added $50,000 for citywide sidewalk repairs, which was one of the things we discussed during our budget meetings, priorities, and about starting to do some work on sidewalk repairs.
Yep.
So you'll see their budget on pages 13-7 and detail on 13-8 and 13-9. No, just 13-8.
Through the chair, I have a question. Is that strictly for sidewalk repairs, or is that, I think we had talked about at the goals workshop, is that new sidewalks that are being put in with the goal of trying to have sidewalks throughout?
The $50,000 is for the tie-ins of some residents that don't have sidewalks.
Right.
Just to tie in with the existing sidewalks that are there now. So it's new sidewalk.
But it's actually streets where you have half of the street is
Um,
sidewalk and the other one
Yes,
is-
we're missing a portion of the block.
Through the chair on that.
Yes.
Piggyback on that question. As I recall the conversation, the issue was, that's why I want to get to the 50,000. The issue was, you got to get all the neighbors, right, to agree and to do this. So is the number 50,000 kind of based on anticipation of requests, or is it already requests that you have for whether it's matching sidewalks or a block that really wants sidewalks?
No, this is just matching existing sidewalks, not the full block.
Got it.
This is just some portions of the neighborhood is missing a piece of the sidewalk. So we want to tie in the whole block in, for the residents, for the elderly, and
the 50,000, approximately how many blocks are we talking about? I mean, how many, just generally?
It's under 23. So we have a rough estimate that was just completed, and we're short about 23.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
24,000
understand.
to get to it, which hopefully if we can continue the effort every single year, we're able to tie those in. So if you have, let's say, 6 houses on that block and only 3 have sidewalks, and for some reason or another, and you'll drive around and you'll see it, some reason or another, it just like stops right in the middle of the
Yeah,
street.
no, I've seen this.
So that's our first goal, which is what we discussed with William and with other folks around, that it would be best to let's finish these off and get them from corner to corner.
And these are residents that want the sidewalk.
Like the
Correct, that was going to be my next
Yeah, it's
question.
not
In
the
other
full
words,
block, though.
you've identified those blocks, you've
Yeah.
talked to people, they said yes, because you might have someone on the block that says, I don't care,
well, this is minor impact.
Yeah.
There's already sidewalk there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you might be missing say, for just to say any number, 65, 75 feet to tie to the next neighbor next door.
Sure.
It's
Got it.
not the full block.
Right.
I think this is highly needed, and it's a great start. It's a great start to tie together these patchworks of where we have it and where we don't, with the goal of hopefully every year increasing, so that ultimately I would like to see that every single street in Miami Springs, there's at least one sidewalk either on one side of the road or on the other, but there's a sidewalk there. So that's awesome.
And does this include corners? as
Excuse
well?
me?
The corner.
Oh yeah, it will have the ADA ramp,
yellow,
the ADA ramp with the detectable tile.
Disabled.
Yes,
accessible.
correct.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions. So one, Alonso, I remember we had a meeting a couple weeks ago in reference to the sidewalk funds that we were able to attain. Was it for CITT? Was it CITT funds?
CITT.
Yeah, is that part of the $50,000 that we're talking?
No,
Did we
this is
incorporate?
separate from that.
Okay, so none of that is gonna cover any of the proposed.
I got to call into CITT because their policy in the past has been that they will cover sidewalks if it was part of a road project. That's
Or leading to a bus stop.
or leading to a bus stop, and
Okay.
so yeah, I got to call into them to see if maybe that's a change,
Okay.
but that's my understanding of how. I
Okay.
mean, that's the only way we got the sidewalks over here when we did the bike path on Westwood. We were able to use CITT to do the sidewalks because it was part of a bigger road project.
Another question, Lazaro, when you said you implemented some sidewalks this year, was it that you said that a little bit ago? Did you put out some sidewalks?
No, sidewalks we haven't.
No sidewalks.
No.
Okay, so since our our highlight is to incorporate citywide sidewalks, if there's any trees that need to be removed, will they be replaced with a new tree?
Yes, if we do road work where the sidewalk or the road, the trees do fall into the project.
Okay.
So far, this project that we have now for the $50,000 to do the tie-ins, no trees need to be removed.
Perfect. And then here I see we have a budget for 25,000 for citywide tree planting. How many did we do last year? Did we plant any trees at all?
Oh, yep.
Yeah, we did. We actually now in August, in the next couple of weeks, we'll have our tree planting completed for the 25,000 that we have from budgeted this year.
Previous budget.
And then hopefully we're going to try again, see if we can manage to get it.
Mhm.
Is an extra 25.
So-
in the grant. Streets, right?
Or
correct,
neat streets.
With
which is
Yeah.
quite demanding.
with the 25,000, were those oak trees or just random?
Not all of them are oak trees. We kind of leave it up to the resident. So in the areas where, let's say it would be what you would call public areas, like a common area,
Mhm.
we try and put oak trees where it would be reasonable.
Okay.
You think you have sidewalks to consider, you have
The road.
roads to consider, the spacing that you have to consider.
Water, sewer.
Yeah, and we're not looking at it today, we're looking at it 20, 30 years from now.
I got it.
Only because now we have to repair some sidewalks.
Oak trees are expensive, right?
And yeah,
Trees are expensive, but I think that it's really important for us to become, I mean, it's in our code that we're tree canopy and we're getting Tree City rewards. But I also, I understand that we have a budget, but I'd rather focus more on that budget on more of abundantry. I know on Ludlam, we have a bunch of, I don't know what those trees are called, but they're very, very bushy. And honestly, I think that they could become even more maintenance because you have them growing out to the street and it's eventually going to start scratching people's cars. And it's going to alleviate your work if you have more of a tree trunk that's growing upward and cleaner on the bottom.
those are flowering, so the Tom Nash had those put in.
I know.
Only because we needed not so much shade, but we needed to kind of make it a little bit more colorful since it's so used.
Right.
So those trees should not grow much more than what they are right now.
No.
So it's a matter of just doing some quick maintenance. You know, you go there and
I get that, but aesthetically too, I don't think they're very appealing. I mean, not for that type of bud. And to alleviate you too on Ludlam, I know to cut the grass there, you have to go around how many little operational costs that'll add up. Time, it's just one of those things. So yeah, I just want to make sure that we continue with more trees in our city. It's very important to promote oxygen,
We
and
have
we're
this- with this planting, we'll fulfill our entire list. So we don't have any pending requests for trees.
Okay.
Not that we have on our list.
And that-
Okay,
that
okay.
surprised me because I asked Laz today to tell me, what kind of a waiting list do we have for trees? And he said,
I don't think people are aware that they can request a tree.
Sure.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
we get them quite often, but
I requested one.
one of the things that has helped us is to kind of see the turnaround. So South Royal, we were going to try and help out that area. And we were going to take a lot of trees over to South Royal. And as a result of that project that's coming, it saved us that. So we were able to put trees on residents' properties where you weren't going to have them until next fiscal year because you only have a certain amount of money.
Correct.
spend on trees.
Correct.
So,
And that, the amount that we have is a pittance. We used to have, I think, 100,000 for new tree planting.
yeah, we
And
had a lot.
unfortunately, and it breaks my heart that we've come down to this. I know Tom Nash told, and I'm saying this for the rest of the council, so you know, he recommended that we take some of that money that we had for new tree planting and transfer it to our tree maintenance budget, which is much larger, because he said,
Trimming.
you know, if the older trees aren't maintained, you know, due to storm damage, insect and infected, then we're going to lose them when a storm comes or something. You know, I was hoping when we did reduce it to 25,000 that that would be a temporary thing, and then we could bring it back up. I don't think that's possible this year, but I just want to stress that this is a pittance of what, you know, we have allocated for tree planting. And I know you've done a great job with Neat Streets of getting a matching grant. So we've actually wound up getting 50,000. Hopefully, if we can explore more grants for tree planting, because it's really, and I understand the tree maintenance is extremely important. We don't want to lose what we have.
Right.
You know, once we plant it, we need to maintain them, especially our beautiful older trees, that they don't get become too
Absolutely.
top heavy, excuse me, and turn over in a storm. So just, that's my suggestion. Let's hopefully, if we have to keep it at this year, but you know, hopefully next year or very soon, we can bring it back up to what we've had in the past for tree planting.
Agree.
Through the chair, I had a question. I think I got thrown off on page 13.13.6 because it did talk about 25,000 for citywide tree planting, but this is still under streets and streetlights division. And so I understand. I mean, I obviously I'm all for the trees. So, but just looking at 13.7, how did we save, Laz? Maybe you can answer. How do we go from 50,000 last year to 25,000 this year for contractual services? Where did that savings come from?
No,
That contractual services, Councilman, is the tree planting.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so 50,000 this year because of the Neat Street grant.
Yes,
we had
correct.
budgeted
Gotcha.
in.
25 will take it, pick it up.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, Lisa, can we get one of those need tree grants again? Is that possible?
I'm hoping we can work towards it.
I think you can do it.
You're on top of it.
The thing with the Neat Streets grant is that they're very, they micromanage what type of tree. I mean, those trees you're talking about on Ludlam came from a Neat Streets grant. Those are the trees they wanted us.
Okay, let me help you with that then.
Yeah, they gave us, in order for them to give us 25, we have to relinquish the control of the 50. So we're not able to decide what we can do with our 25 of the 50.
But the good thing about it is they're all indigenous.
Yes, they are.
They're all in what?
Indigenous. They're all of the area.
Yes, yes, yes.
Absolutely.
And I know for myself, I've always, and I've talked to Tom Nash about this, you know, we have North Royal Poinciana and South Royal Poinciana, which are such grand names. And if you're not familiar with our city, you expect to, you know, this boulevard of just beautiful Poincianas. And I had asked him, let's make it a goal to replenish Poincianas along that so that it can be something that people come to Miami Springs to just go along our
Poinciana.
boulevards.
It's not indigenous.
He explained to me the problem is, the challenge is that the trees are very messy. So people don't want them on their swales because they damage their cars. They're very messy, and there's very few areas of public land that we can put them that is not a swale directly affecting a resident. And most residents, as much as they love them, don't want the mess.
Yeah, you have the pods and you have the flowers.
Exactly.
honestly, we try to push Poincianas this year, but
But the
They are
smaller,
messy.
the residents.
there's a dwarf Poinciana, which is not really a Poinciana, but it kind of looks like
Like
it, so
that.
it gives you that effect, and it's a little smaller.
And I think whenever we plant, especially along North and South Royal Poinciana Boulevards, you know, let's try to replant with Poinciana trees. It's just the streets, the sound of the streets are beautiful, you know, and then you get there and you like, where do I find the Poinciana? So, all right. Any other questions? on
Just
this?
to reiterate what you said earlier, Mayor, relative to trying to get this money for additional tree planting up as we go
Mhm.
forward.
Yes, no, it has to be a goal. This is
Yep.
just not in keeping with,
Yep.
the city of Miami Springs. And I think this is the third year that, I think, well, last year we kept it at this, and
Yes.
I think it was the year before that we reduced it
Right.
out of necessity. We'd had a storm the year before, and the tree maintenance, with Irma and stuff, and the tree maintenance was just a priority to protect what we've got. Okay, any?
All right, let's move on to public properties on page 13-9. The proposed budget is about $13,000 or 1.5% lower than fiscal year 2021. This is the budget where you'll see under contractual services, $100,000 for citywide tree trimming. The budget on page 13-10, and detailed descriptions are on 13-11.
Any questions from the council?
I have none, Mayor.
Through the chair.
Yes.
On 1310, where it says liability insurances, I understand that's obviously a need. I just want to understand the nature of the increase of 10,000, almost
Which one?
11,000. On 1310,
45,
liability
45,
insurance?
4530, William. Yeah.
something changed there in the
That's it's based
premium
on
went up.
it's based on payroll, and it's based on experience, rating experience. So you'll see that throughout the budget that liability insurance will probably be increasing for most of the budgets.
So next year it'll be like 70,000. Oh wow.
Yeah, it's pretty much of a
Scary.
trend, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions? What is the salary decrease that we had,
For regular.
the 11,000 in salary?
Yeah, that's probably because of the new hires. We've had people
Retire
leave
and
and all
new
that.
positions,
So,
okay.
so you got new people coming in at a lower
Lower
salary.
rates. Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions on this?
Oh, Mayor.
You can see the tree trimming budget here for 100,000.
It doesn't balance out.
All right,
the
let's
budget.
move on
And
to-
it's still not enough, right?
Right, and it's still, my understanding is
Oh,
we use
remember-
double that, right?
Remember what Tom Nash used to say? Tom Nash said, "You give me 200, I'll spend it.
I'll spend it."
300,000, I'll
Yeah.
spend
For
it.
tree
we
trimming.
spent the 200. That was a
Yeah.
couple years ago.
Be
Yeah.
judicial about it.
And remember, I mean, with trees, your property values go up, and that's where millage rate comes in, and that's where we get most of our general funds. So I think we do things to improve our city that would increase our property values. We have a bigger budget.
But protecting those beautiful old trees that we have
Absolutely.
is just,
All right, on page 1312, you'll see building maintenance. These are the miracle workers, the two guys that keep all of our city buildings trying to stay up. You'll see a big decrease here. Proposed budget is about 312,000 or 79% lower, and that's basically because of the city hall mold remediation costs that we incurred. That's what you'll find here. So this is basically a two-man operation. Huh?
Yes, it is. Two good men.
Through the chair.
yes.
On 1314, where we have the other contractual services, I'm not really looking at that. It's a minimal difference. What I'm looking at is under the other contractual services where we have just a lump sum of 80,000. We wouldn't be able to get these expenses itemized, or is this just like a whole bundle? Oh, services that fall in one.
It's all of that into the 80. So that's a description of everything that's included in that 80.
Yeah. There's no way to get that itemized for the
I can
future.
get that.
Yeah, because it gives us a better idea of where the expense is coming from or thank you. Same thing for repairs and maintenance, a little bit more down on the 125,000.
Oh, on the 125,
That one, yeah.
the 4600 account.
Yes.
I believe
That's just,
William, you can address that one.
that's just an estimate. That's
Oh,
just a ball-
okay.
Because you don't know during the year what comes up in these buildings and all that. So we just put a dollar
Okay.
amount based on prior history and all that. Well, it could be more, it could be less. I mean, we look at it historically, 18, 19, we had, which was the last normal year we had for the mold, we had about 117,000. Then you'll see in the following 2 years, we have 483 and
Yeah.
445. That's all related
lot.
to the mold issue.
Yeah, down 320 now though.
Are either of these employees nearing retirement? There's-
No,
Building maintenance, no.
no.
No, we hope not.
Any other questions
No, ma'am.
regarding building maintenance?
Okay, 13, 15 is the last one for, on the public works side. That's the fleet maintenance budget. The proposed budget is about, it's actually about $1,000 higher than last year. And basically, these are the people that do all of our, maintain all of our city vehicles at Public Works. And the reason you'll see under other contractual services, what happens is that vehicles from other departments like police, sanitation, stormwater, all those vehicles, the expense is actually charged to those funds. What remains here are the vehicles that they operate in administration and vehicles that are not related to sanitation or stormwater that have to be repaired, and that's their side of the budget.
How about the vehicles that say building or code enforcement
That's charged to
uses?
them. If
Right.
you look at the building
You don't
department,
maintain those.
We do.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
you
do.
maintain
Yeah,
those.
we
okay.
service them,
Okay, you service
but
those.
it comes out of their
whenever,
budget.
But you're servicing them.
in all the other budgets, you'll see a line item for fleet maintenance. You'll see it in building. You'll see it in recreation. You'll see it in even the senior center. When they repair their vehicles, they're all automatically charged to those departments.
Any questions regarding the fleet maintenance? No?
Okay, let's move on
William,
now
wait,
to.
I have
oh,
one question
sorry.
regarding that. There's no other questions from the council?
No.
Okay, I know I talked to you about one of the fleet maintenance, one of the, I guess that was Parks and Rec. One of the.
One of their vehicles?
Yes.
We'll discuss that
That's,
when we do the Parks and
right,
Rec
that one?
budget.
It wasn't this, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's do road and transportation, which is the better known as the CITT fund. It's on page 15-1. And again, all of this is funded with CITT funds, so it doesn't affect the general fund or the millage rate. Proposed budget is about 7,500 or 1.3% lower than 2021. This budget includes $28,000 to replace the crosswalk signs at Starbucks on the circle. It includes $50,000 for alley maintenance and $147,000 for milling and paving various roads citywide. We'll see the budget on 15-2 and 15-3. On 15-2, you'll see it split up under the first section is transportation, and the bottom section says mass transit. That mass transit section is where we pay for the shuttle bus because The way this CITT money is split up, you can use 80% for transportation and 20% for transit. So that 20% is what pays for the shuttle bus, and you'll see that on page 15-2.
What is the 182 then? The 182 is a shuttle? 182,000?
That's the cost of the shuttle bus for the year.
That's the bus and the operator? And
That's everything. We
Everything.
contract with them, they provide everything.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes.
That replacement of the crosswalk signs at Starbucks, right? That's a flashing sign we're talking about?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, because I had a harrowing experience this morning, trying to get across there with the flashing lights and fighting with the drivers who wouldn't stop. How is it going to look different than what we have? If it's going to look different?
I don't think it's going to look different. I think the problem is that those signs are so old. that we
Yeah, the
can't get-
problem with those, that's like the new first generation of solar crosswalks.
Yes.
They're discontinued. We can't get parts for them. They're obsolete. So we have to go to the newer version, which would you see over there on the new crosswalk that the county installed. And we also got one on East Drive by Stafford Park. That's the new system, and that's the one that's $28,000. Now it won't make the car stop.
No, I must have looked like either a crazy man or a homeless man or something, because I got to the middle and the people just kept coming, and I'm going like, yo, look at this sign. And I'm standing there for literally 3 minutes until I just stuck my hand out. And one car stopped, and then a couple of cars stopped. I said, this is the craziest thing. But okay, well, yeah, no, there's nothing that comes out, no hammer and hits somebody.
You got a new sign at Stafford or crossing?
It's been there for a while. The crosswalk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been there for a while.
Oh, good. Because I know that was an ongoing. We would.
Yeah,
wind
it's
up
been
having to
there.
send
It's been
reps
there
to
for
staff.
several years. For that reason,
Is that working? Then if it's been there for several years, is that the one working? Because the one at
yeah, they came and they fixed it. Yeah,
the county fixed it.
actually they changed it to the newer version.
Okay.
Because that one was
'Cause
old
the other
fashioned.
one was
It
a
wasn't. Yeah,
disaster.
it was always a
on, off.
disaster. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So we have the newer version at Stafford Park
Correct.
now. Oh,
The
that's
same
good
one
to
as
know.
they just installed on the circle.
Okay.
When they did the new crosswalk.
And that was charged to us, or that the county put in?
No, actually, that was part of that project that the residents that they got. It was like $100,000.
It was the actual crosswalk was part of their project with the county, but not from their grant. Because their grant was to do the color.
The color. And I don't know what happened when I reached out to them months ago.
Wait, I'm confused. The crosswalk at Stafford Park? No,
No.
the crosswalk at the circle was part of
on
that
the
grant
circle,
of the
on the
public space
circle.
challenge. Okay.
She's talking about on
Stafford
Stafford,
Park.
where remember there was a point where we had to put an actual sign in the middle of the street for people to stop so they.
Yeah, because it would never, one side would work, the other side would never work.
Right.
But that's been replaced.
Okay.
With
And
the
that
newer
was at the
version.
county's cost.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes. That was
Okay.
at the county's
Right.
cost.
And then I know the circle one was covered by the public space challenge grant
Correct.
money.
Yes.
Or the county,
Crosswalk sign was actually
the county,
by the county as part of the circle.
part of the public space challenge project. Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Alonso, do we have a budget level report for roads and transportation?
A what report?
You know, the budget level reports that you've provided for each department. I don't see one here unless they don't have one. I'm not sure. I'll show you.
I think that's why we jumped to 15. Isn't that why we went to 15?
Yeah, the HD report.
I'll get that for you.
Thank you. I just wanted to see if we could get them itemized for these two. Let me see. Hold on. Because I had a question on the repairs and maintenance that went up for 55.
Oh, the 4,600? Is what you're talking about?
The 40, yeah.
The 4,600 account?
That's really a catch-all. We
Is
can-
it
we
like
can-
the other one?
Yeah,
That's the
because
129?
we're getting 560. How much are we getting this year? About $580,000. So whenever we budget, whatever that difference is, we put in repairs and maintenance, and that can be used for. And like he said, he's using it for. He's using 147,000 for milling and paving, and
I don't see it.
50,000 for alley maintenance. Right.
What is the alley maintenance, Lazaro?
The alley maintenance is the grading of the alley to level it off, because through time, the trucks, the residents that use it,
Crushed rock.
yeah, it gets ruts. So we level it off. We add rock, road rock, and we also do trimming, because a lot of the damages to the vehicle is the overgrowth, like code compliance was saying, the overgrowth from the residents side goes into the alley. So we also give it maintenance. So all that'll be a portion of the 50,000.
And the filling in of the bulk pickup too, right? Like the holes that form?
Yes. Kind of like a whole project. Filling of the holes, the grading, and then re-rocking the alley.
Any other questions? I do have one related, since we were talking about the fill. I know when, in the past, when the hurricanes are threatening on their way, we've provided sand for residents to go and get their own sandbags. Where is that budgeted, or is that just something we kind of,
We get that
we
from
don't have the sand available
We get it from
here, right? We order the trucks of it? How does that work,
Sand-
William?
For filling sandbags for
Yeah,
the.
well, what we've done is when we've had a hurricane
Mhm.
that's threatening out there and it seems pretty imminent, then Public Works has.
You get a few yards
provided
brought in.
Yes,
and people just go
sand,
and fill
we've
them up
dumped it
themselves.
there, and then we've told residents they can bring
I
their own
think
little
the
bags.
last time we did that for
On that.
Irma, where we had the sand over by the. I think we did the Optimist Club one time.
Did by
And
the-
then we did on
By the
Curtis
golf course.
Parkway, by
We
the
got
golf
those-
course parking lot.
Right.
We got those from Golf, from Lori.
Oh,
Herald
Lord.
Supplier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can
Because I
we
think, yeah.
look
Lord Bland?
into that and make sure that we have that available
Yeah.
in case, since we're right in the middle of hurricane season, as expeditiously as possible, should we need it? And I know it's kind of like again, one of those timing things of, it doesn't look like it's coming. We certainly don't want to put it out there way ahead when the hurricane could turn, but all of a sudden when it looks like it, we're in the warning, we need to get it out there very, very quickly. But I know a lot of residents really appreciate,
Okay.
us having that available, and it seems like the
Yep.
other times that we've had it, I think we've done it twice. It's gone,
Yeah.
use it, they feel that they're able to do what they can to protect their property from flooding. Anything else? Any other questions?
All right, next one on section 19, go to page 19-1 is the sanitation budget. Proposed budget is about 88,000 or 3.4% lower than current fiscal year. This is the budget that includes the purchase of 2 new sanitation trucks. The 2 trucks cost $530,676. This will be included in the 5-year lease financing and have an annual budget cost of $114,691 over the next 5 years. The budget is on page 19-2 and 19-3. And basically, any specific questions? Those 2 new trucks are replacing trucks that are, how old?
Our oldest truck is 2006.
Yeah.
The 2 oldest, 2006 and 2010. Our oldest 2 trucks.
We also have 2 new trucks that were purchased in 2014.
2014,
Those
correct.
are the ones we're using now.
Those are the ones we're using now. The other
But
ones are.
we have 2 on the road and 2 are backups. So those 2 backups that we're using now are real old. So we'll get 2 new trucks, and then the 2 you're using now will become the
Yeah,
backup.
they'll be the spare trucks when they're down for maintenance or repairs.
And the reason they're expensive is because these are not regular sanitation, they're specialized trucks. They have to be a certain size to fit through the alleys.
All right.
So there's only very few people that do those.
Correct.
We haven't bought any of those in a while.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Some of the savings projected are in part a reflection of new vehicles.
Yes, correct.
There's quite a few of them, and that's.
Yeah.
The expense, believe it or not, the dinosaur, which is our oldest one from 2006, it's mighty. I mean, it's roaring, but it has gotten to the point where it needs not. We can't just patch it, and we can't do small things. It's
can only
requiring
go so far.
more expense. Where it looks like, just because of the amount of time that we've had it, that it looks like it's less expensive. It's not, because we've had it for 15 years. But the newer ones, because of the technology, and technology is always good, but in our case, because of the way we run our trucks, technology kind of works a little bit against us because of the electronics that it has.
Yep.
So it tends to be a little bit more expensive, even though they're newer. But the two would be ideal if we could have those. It would be eventual savings for sure.
Sure, as the equipment gets really older, it's hard to even find the parts and kind of
And then
trying to
sometimes-
fit things that aren't necessarily meant to fit with these universal parts that don't.
And sometimes they just appear.
No, and you're maintaining more often, so it's gonna add up.
Any questions on this? I have one on the solid waste recycle. That we've got a decrease of 65,000.
It's not really, I think we over budgeted this year.
Kind of looks like it, yeah, yeah.
And that's been running about 110,000 in prior years. So I think this year, 2021, is probably higher because of more people at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that
All of our services have increased as a result of those being at
right.
home.
Okay.
So more building code compliance and public works have been
So
slammed.
what made us
during COVID.
increase it so much from one year to the next? Well, I guess it doesn't matter. What we're looking at is a
Are you t-
decrease, but that we went from 108 to 1.
I'm sorry, through the chair?
Yes.
Do all the homes have or exercise the option of the recycling bin?
That's run through the county.
Okay. Is that in relation to this pickup or
The
no?
recycling,
The recycling?
I'm not, I have to defer to William. for this
Yes,
one.
because I don't know.
On the recycling,
What's that?
where that particular item comes from.
The solid waste recycle.
The 3405.
You know, the blue bins that we have?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah, that's the recycling.
that's the
Mhm.
company that recycle. Yeah,
Right.
picks up the recycling.
So it's county run, but the expense is absorbed by the resident.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
because this it being a different fund.
Oh, so maybe they reduced the impact to us, and that's why it went down. It's been going down.
I can't say, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
don't have that information.
I love those recycling bins. All right. Any more questions?
Any other
Recycling is part of
questions?
the
it's part of-
trash fee
Yeah,
that's
on the
included
tax.
in your tax.
Yeah.
It's in the fee schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
Any other questions? Councilman Fahet, any questions?
We're still with it.
No questions. Thank you.
Make sure. So listen.
Let's go to section 20, which is the final one for last. That's the stormwater fund on page 20-1. Proposed budget is about 63,000 or 13.3% lower than 2021. You'll see the budget on page 20-2. And again, these are funded through the stormwater fees that are paid by the on your water bill. You see a decrease in salaries because again, employee changes that were made in
Correct.
there with lower salary personnel coming in. And let's see, what else?
It probably represents most of the lower
And I imagine
percentage.
through the chair.
Yeah, it does.
Liability insurance is the same, right?
Liability insurance went down.
Changes in
because of- there was a
salaries.
reduction in salaries. I think that's the only major thing.
All these parentheses look so good.
It's depreciation. 20.
Went down because
The salary.
old trucks are being written off.
That's it.
It depends on the side of the ledger.
Mhm. Any questions on this?
No.
I don't have any questions.
Do, oh. Through the chair?
Yes.
One little question, just so William can educate me. Last year, the department for the budget highlights, and this year we have a net cost of 15,000. What made the difference?
What are you looking at?
You don't have it. It's what I got from the fiscal year last year under the budgeted highlights. They had when the budget revenues were at 471, they have a net cost of the department of 0, and now their net cost on this budget is 15,000.
Yeah, because we're not spending the whole 424,500 that we're getting. We're only budgeting
Okay.
408, so that's going to
Okay.
leave us 15,000 that's going to be added to.
That's
their
the
reserves.
difference. I was just because we evened out last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And right, and it goes into the reserve.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you both very much.
Now let's do my favorite one.
You get to do this yourself. You get to do this yourself, right?
And thank you for the work y'all do. I know, again,
Thank
it's,
you.
your job is very often one of those where you hear the complaints and you're just dealing with the complaints that keep our city beautiful.
Not too many.
Appreciate it.
Not too
Good
many
night.
municipalities in Dade County that provide the services that you do. You folks do as often and as good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. So where are we now?
We are to finance.
Yippee.
Section 6.
On page 6-3, now finance is divided into two sections, the administrative division and then the professional services division, which the one Tammy oversees, and we'll get to that one next. On page 6-3, proposed budget is about 21,000 higher than fiscal year 2021. Increase is due to the COLA increase as well as health insurance cost increase of 5.8%. And you'll see a reduction in, on page 6-4, you'll see a reduction in professional services. Basically due to a single audit that we had to do last year that's not included, not necessary this year. What else?
How often do we have to do that audit, William? How often do we have to do that audit?
Whenever you get a certain amount of fiscal year, when you need you get a certain amount of federal funds, you have to do a single audit.
We're not getting that number of federal funds with the FEMA, with the COVID money?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
That won't throw us in there, okay.
What's the benchmark number for that type of audit? What's the benchmark number for that? That will lead us into an audit.
$750,000. So
We'll probably have to do it this year then, right? With that federal money coming.
Next
For next, right.
next.
But it'll show up though, right? Yeah. William, what is the 2187 savings under general? Is that just a conglomeration of what's on 6-4? Fourth line item from the top. 2201.
That's pension.
Okay, that's the payroll related pensions and stuff.
That's pension.
Yeah. Gotcha.
To the chair. Oh.
Extra, part-time, or I guess extra staff for the lobby, that's, where is that? Is that?
No, that's
in the manager's
coming up with the professional services. Sir.
Okay, professional service, okay.
Didn't William, when Borgman was city manager, what was the gal that she had that was under the city manager's
Barbara.
budget?
Barbara.
Barbara
That
Robinson.
was his secretary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was directly
That was Margaret Watson
Mm-hmm.
downstairs.
downstairs also, and that he didn't Jim put that in his budget? What they paid Barbara or Margaret? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Just thinking that. Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Barbara.
No, the other Margaret Watson. Yeah, she was just a greeter. Yeah.
Any questions on this?
Let's do the other part on page 6-8, which is professional services.
Yep.
The proposed budget is 49,000 or 24.7% higher. Increase is due to the addition of the full-time receptionist at the City Hall lobby, as well as $4,220 in debt service for the acquisition of a new digital marquee for the Circle and new laptop monitor software for the public information officer. You'll see the budget on 6-9, and as far as the marquee for the Circle, you'll see on page 613.
Yep. 17,668.
See some the total cost for that, and with a 5-year lease, it comes out to about $4,200 a month for over 5 years. Because right now the problem we have with that marquee that's there now is that it's very limited as to what you can do. You have to get a police officer or public service
Yeah, community usually goes out and does that, right? Yeah, CCP. Yeah.
to change the letters, and
There's a safety concern as well because they have to put cones in the middle of the circle, block off that inner lane,
And it's
lift it up.
Yeah, it's only 2 lanes now.
About a year ago, before we had put in some air hinges on it on the door, they used to have to prop it up with like a pole, and it came down and hit one of the PSA officers in the head, and of course they had to go and do, go get
How
some
much is the marquee sign? The new
117, a little over 17,000.
Thousand total.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
To the chair.
Yes.
William, do we have or Tam, do we have a rendering for what it's gonna look like?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. I was just wondering because I looked them up and they look all nice, but I don't know how enthusiastic we're gonna get with this.
what we can do, we're gonna get. I think we got.
Can you pass it to me? It's that same one or no?
That's just that's not our rendering. It's just a generalized rendering of what could be the possibilities. So those circles at the bottom, instead of doing circles, we were talking about doing the flower.
The
city
logo.
The city logo flower.
That would be nice.
Do we, and I'm just throwing this out there, do we really need this sign? I know that marquee sign, I remember, was a project, Miami Springs Junior Women's Club, that we raised the money to put it in initially, probably 20 years ago. I don't even know, 25 years ago. I have no idea. But I'm wondering right now with social media and stuff, this is the one on the Westward Drive that we're talking about, right?
On the circle.
And right on the circle.
Right.
It's
Right
like the
across
head
from
of
Harvest
Westward
Moon.
Drive.
Is that something, and I'm just throwing it out there for consideration when we put this list of what we can work on, that, I mean, it's beautiful, but is it really something that serves its purpose when we have, our city website, we have the social media, the Facebook and everything at the city, Twitter.
I
with
thought
that
so too.
information?
And you'd be surprised how many people will call if there's misinformation on it
Oh, really?
or there's
And with that, you could
there's quite a
promote.
few. It'll call and say, hey, it hasn't been updated in a while, or hey, it's and sometimes it's not updated immediately because again, we rely on a PSA officer to go out there in a vehicle and change it. When we get this marquee, it'll be digital. You can access whatever you want to say on it right from our desktop computer.
And the operational cost you said was 4,500 every 5 years, for 5 years.
But yes.
And it has rotational information, right? So you
will
can
be
have like
rotational,
up to
full
10.
color. Yes.
And how would that do with traffic like that?
We had inquired about that because the pixelated, it needed to be a certain pixelation in
'Cause it's
order
a
to be visible from the circle. So we, that
And
was
not
part
so
of,
like
that was part of the
consideration.
The consideration, and when we had somebody go out there to take a look at it.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
I just through the chair, I have a tendency to raise my eyebrows at that costing too.
Well, one thing that and I don't know if it would be any less. I mean, I know we've had it on the Westward Drive forever. Would having it on our building on City Hall, having something like, would that at all lessen the cost? Because the City Hall is a place that you would look for on the outside to have information, and I'm wondering, something as nice as that, perhaps on the outside of our City Hall building would be more visible, would provide, I don't know, and if it might not affect the cost or at all, but it might be something. I remember exactly working on that project, wanting to put a sign in. I can tell you the history. One of our members of the Junior Women's Club, Jana McCarthy, she would drive every day to Miami Shores, and Miami Shores had a sign like that. And so she thought Miami Springs should have one. So we worked on it as a project. And the reason that it's right there is I can't remember who it was then. It might have been Maria Davis said, "Oh, I have a place that would cover some unsightly pipes and stuff that we have behind there." So it's funny how these things go, and that was a perfect location, because I guess there's something, electrical boxes or something right behind that.
There's the electrical panel.
Electrical panel, yeah.
River Cities, I
From the
remember.
River Cities, Mark had
that's how the
from Computer
location was
Electric had to
chosen.
change that one year.
So I'm
yeah.
just wondering right now, if we're going to go to something new and it's really visible, and like you say, if people are looking at it, then let's up the usage of it more by perhaps on the outside of our building of City Hall. I know they have that like at Miami Beach and stuff, on the outside of the, I'm thinking of like the wall cast.
No, but it's true. It's a centralized
Symphony at the World Symphony Center, but it's still something of.
I'm thinking.
I'm not sure it'll get the visibility that you're expecting, but because the circle is the visibility point, focal point.
But it can only be really seen by somebody that is coming from westward, because you can't travel through the circle.
Remember,
and be
that
reading
marquee in the circle is not owned by the city. That's the women's clubs.
Yep.
It's not ours.
Oh, so it's not removing that.
I'm sorry?
It's not removing the two that are, the one that's at the circle.
Well, what we would have done is we would remove that one, give it to the women's club so they can place it in front of their building, and then we would place our marquee where that is.
And we're right across the street from each other.
But that's owned by the women's club, not the city.
I just don't know if I'm sold on spending this kind of money when we're trying to do with this budget.
Why don't we just put it on the wish
Why
list
don't
to
we?
consider it?
Why don't we?
I mean, it's 17,000 and we've got
I
a
know.
lot of other
Well, it's for, like
requests,
William
so-
said, it's itemized. It's for
4,000.
budget. That's what we would say.
Yeah. Oh, it's 4,000 because we're doing it over
Right,
several
5
years.
year
Okay.
lease.
5-year
Okay,
lease.
okay.
Right, so
$1,200 a
whatever
year.
it is. I mean, it'd be nice. There's no question about it. But
No, it's
we got to
beautiful.
start. We got to
It's
start
very nice.
taking a peek at this. We're gonna.
Okay, all right. I was thinking we're putting
Yeah.
out 17,000.
And we
right now.
certainly, and we've been here like 3 hours, and we sure haven't saved a heck of a lot of money tonight.
Well, that's why.
I know.
You haven't spent money either.
No, you're
so-
right.
so
You're
we're
right.
keeping the money.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Through the chair, I just wanted to chime in that I would agree with that. I think that social media is a less expensive and more effective way to get the word out about city events.
We had a tremendous increase in followers on the 3 social media platforms I was seeing, and Instagram by far took Twitter and Facebook by
Good.
almost 5,000 followers.
Good. Wonderful.
So that's good.
Yes, that pretty much.
Problem is, not everybody has social media. You'd be surprised.
No, you're right.
I don't have the Miami Herald.
People tell me, we didn't know about it.
I'm a pen and paper guy.
This is the circle sign. I just want to write that in. Okay. Any other questions, any comments on this?
No, good session tonight. Covered a lot of ground.
Tammy and William, you all always
Thank
do an
you.
excellent job. And
Yes, sir.
again, the budget preparation that you do for us is just, it's so much data, but it's so well organized and
That's why he wins a national award every year.
provide a lot of clarity.
I'm telling you, my city manager is better than yours. All right.
Is that it
That's
for
it.
tonight?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to
Thank
adjourn.
you.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Hey, Victor. Got to congratulate you.
Oh, did you wanna? Let me turn this off.
Okay. All right. Take care. Thank you. Yes, let's go. I hear me.